How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with your favorite show host, RSL.
Venerian.
And Wallace Allen, we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. Such as it was. I don't know what your guys' week was like. Mine was pretty much the same as it was last week, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to bring to the party. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com. You can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which is the best place to go if you want to talk to the show hosts or other listeners to the show, or just generally shitpost and chat. And you can get there by clicking on the link will be provided in the show description underneath the show archive on YouTube. And presumably one of these days we'll probably get a Rumble up and running as well.
Maybe.
Yeah, MPP has gone on Rumble now. We have an MPP Rumble account. For some reason, the MPP show email was not working. So with Rumble, so I had to use the actual show email for it. So we'll have to.
Oh, that's what that
register
was.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to register
Why would just a different show email not work?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Emails can be weird like that.
No, I think it's just Rumble's being dumb because Rumble's still not quite there yet.
It's finished.
It still has shoes. Has shoes. But
All right. And on the creme to play, yeah, let's go with that. I'm playing a bit of Vampire Survivors and not Waifu Edition. Yeah, as much as I love the HoloCure one, they haven't actually put out any new content in the last couple of weeks.
It seems like you're wanting a pretty fast content cadence here.
Yeah.
This made by one dude.
It made by one dude. And yeah, although I wouldn't be surprised if HoloLive's cheering him on in the background.
They are.
Well, I mean, the HoloLive fandom is probably it has more points in fanaticism than most developers do.
Also in autism. Why? I need to disable this stupid news thingy that Windows insists on putting up. Every time I update my computer, that stupid news thing pops back up again.
The thing that recommends things that it really thinks you want to look at.
Yeah, which nobody in their right mind would want to look at.
Yeah, I always forget how to turn it off and I have to go looking through all the settings again.
Yeah, but because of the jank nature of Vampire Survivor and how I actually need to capture it, then yeah, it might pop up again. That or Malwarebytes, which insists on advertising to me. Ugh.
I do not keep Malwarebytes turned on. It is a thing I have that is there for
fixing.
Yeah, if there is problem, then turn on Malwarebytes.
Yeah.
I don't have any antivirus or any anti-malware software installed at all. Like I just can't really see the purpose. If you only ever go to a handful of sites and you already know what they do and what's there, there's not really like anybody cunning enough to sneak a virus onto your computer generally is not going to get caught out by those things. Those things are only useful if you know you're going to be downloading a bunch of shady crap.
Yeah, but that's why I just leave Malwarebytes just there. It's just
like Windows Defender will do the job. That's going to have to because that's all I've got.
Pretty sure Windows Defender doesn't actually do anything.
Well, Windows Defender works fine if the antiviruses you can pay for are not doing anything that Windows Defender is not doing.
Yeah,
let's put it that way. If you just let them run.
Yeah.
The only reason I keep Malwarebytes around is because sometimes I do go download shady crap from shady websites, like when I'm trying to go play old video games or something.
Yeah, sometimes like it's there for when I go on adventures in modding, or if I want to go and visit Honest Bob.
Yeah, that's about what it's there for.
Yeah.
And
so
if you use a mainstream Honest Bob, though, you're not going to have any.
All the main ones in Australia get blocked. You need to VPN to use those.
If you have got an ad blocker, you're not going to accidentally click on anything untoward.
Yeah,
and but if they were like virus distribution centers, nobody would use them, and then they wouldn't get any more ad revenue. So
yeah, I haven't picked up anything yet, but it's there as a precaution.
Yeah, it's I don't have it installed on this computer. I have the installer, but I don't have it installed on this computer. It will be installed should disaster strike, which will never happen, but it's peace of mind.
It's always good just to have a plan B.
I think that generally speaking, while computer viruses are certainly out and about, I don't think that they're the sort of the big threat that they once were, because at this point everybody has found that the more profitable way to spend your time subversively trying to interfere with other people's computers is all done by social engineering and not by software engineering.
You don't even need to do that much engineering. You can just read people's Facebook pages and sell information off those.
Well, I'm using social engineering as an umbrella term because that's all the way up from, you know, reading somebody's Facebook page and using that for low tier identity theft, all the way up to sort of like multi-million-dollar heists that are carried out using just advanced forms of the same thing.
Yeah.
Or just wait for a security breach on a major website and then go buy it from China.
There's like one every week.
Yeah, just go wait for a major security breach on a website, go buy the information from China off the black market, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, we're going to send viruses to random people, like most of that always did and continues to happen by way of people opening shady email attachments. Like that's like the number one method, like with a bullet.
And spam filters are actually really good these days to catch
the
most
opossum
of that.
has done it before.
Well, he's the opossum. He's the person that they're all looking for. Like, every time I get confused about, like, who would fall for this crap? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Then I just have to remember that, the opossum exists. And that he's probably on the median line for humanity.
Yeah.
So that means 50% of people in the world are dumber than the opossum.
Yeah, that's a way to kill anyone's
It's a
enthusiasm.
sobering thought.
Ugh. Anywho, let us dive into some hacks, shall we?
Yep, go.
And, alright, I've done a couple of things this week. I've started to catch up on a little bit of anime. I've actually started at, I'm going to say, the bottom. And I'm starting to catch up on My Hero Academia, because I am shonen trash.
Well, it's relatively high tier shonen trash as far as shonen trash goes these days. Like, it's not mediocre garbage. It's like the sort of the standard baseline for you need to be at least this good to break into shonen these days. Type of thing.
Fairy Tail's ended now, so the bar has been raised.
Yeah, Fairy Tail had more booba.
It did have an excessive amount of booba. Really, sometimes.
I'm pretty sure the artist was a woman, though. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure, though.
And then you got, was it Elfen Lied, I think was the new one? Which is basically Fairy Tail.
Elfen Lied's an ancient.
No, Elfen Lied. It had a funny name like that, but I'm trying to remember what it was called. But it's, Fairy Tail again. It's even got the same characters.
Oh, yeah. Most mangaka are like that.
Yeah.
Like, virtually everything in all of Tite Kubo's productions are all recycled character designs. You can tell anytime Toriyama has had his grubby fingerprints on something because
he only draws like 3 faces.
Yeah, no, I think he has 6. I think is a standard number. He has 6 different faces that he can draw.
Yeah,
but you can always tell when somebody's gone to do the same. This is why we've got the phenomenon in FGO called Takeuchi face.
Yeah.
Which is like a slight extension of Saberface that includes all of the other characters that use the same facial structure.
Yeah, like you've got your Saber faces, of course. You've got your Rin faces and Shiro faces. I mean, there's a couple of Tiger faces.
Well, the Takeuchi face is an extension of Saberface specifically that includes all of the Jeans. It includes all of the Valkyries. It includes the new Arquid especially, but the old Arquid to a lesser extent. Like, most of the characters, especially any that have a blonde version, fall into that category.
Yeah.
I don't know why the hair color should affect the face, but for Takeuchi it seems to.
Colors can affect visual, how the eye's drawn, I guess. So, anywho. So that's been a fun experience. I think I've started at season 6, where the feces really starts to hit the oscillator. So
I don't know where I got up to, so that's why I haven't picked it up again. I lost steam partway through the arc where they were going through some backstory for the guy who has hands all over his face.
Yeah, he's kind of turned into the big bad at this point.
I really lost steam at that point because it felt like wading through muck. Like, I don't care about his backstory. He hasn't done anything interesting so far.
Yeah.
You have to have somebody do something interesting and then explain the backstory.
Yeah,
Don't just give me the backstory for someone I don't care about.
Like, he was always kind of a dangerous villain, but he was always kind of C tier at best.
Well, he was dangerous, but he was only dangerous because we were told he was dangerous, and he demonstrated that he's got a scary-ish power.
Yeah.
Like, but the thing is, it's not one of those scary powers that's interesting. Like, it's not like fridge horror scary. It's just like, he destroys stuff that he touches, which is incredibly bland.
He just dusts stuff.
And he doesn't do anything except sit off in the wings, commenting ominously about things, and he behaves like an autistic spoiled brat anytime he's on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So because he is an autistic.
That is because he is a spoiled brat, but
yeah, but that's not enough to make a concrete villain on its own. And
nope.
Giving him then an arc that explains all of his backstory and motivations, it's like, I just don't care. I don't care. You didn't make me interested in this guy.
Yep.
There's one of the few really strident criticisms that I have about My Hero Academia is that guy, I can't even remember his name because he's so forgettable.
Shigaraki.
Yeah. He's just not a good villain for like the first massive chunk of the story. You just don't care about him. Like, Overhaul was a better villain. The guy who can, what was it that he does? He's got the YouTube channel. Like, he was a better villain.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, he was a kind of a filler joke villain, but he was more interesting.
Like that the guy. Mr. Gentleman guy, or what? The British guy.
Yeah,
that guy. He was a better villain. Like, he was more interesting. I was more invested in his story arc than the main villain.
I mean, you've even got kind of like useless, ineffective villain twice. He's much more interesting because he has a very interesting arc. But Shigaraki just sat around and didn't do nothing.
I thought that Overhaul was like a really great sort of introductory villain, like the Saiyan Saga villain, like, because he's definitely powerful, he's definitely scary, he definitely has a scheme and motivations of his own, and it plays through in a logical, conventional shonen arc. So at that point, you have to kick it up a notch.
Yeah.
The thing is that what they used to kick it up a notch was the most boring villain they had in the cast.
Yep. So yeah, Overhaul particularly, they did him properly. He did something interesting and scary, then they explained his motivations.
Well,
I just don't understand how they dropped the ball so badly with the main guy. It's such a good story in every other respect, so that's not enough to make me hate the show or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that it feels like the timing was way off for going into a flashback arc, and I basically lost steam there.
Yeah. I am glad, though, that it seems like at least the anime runners seem to have caught on to the fandom's dislike of Mineta.
Yeah, I don't think that the fandom really strongly dislikes Mineta. I think that the sort of the vocal internet portion of the fandom dislikes Mineta, and I don't think that that's actually representative of anything. I think most people just don't have any strong feelings about him whatsoever.
Yeah. So you see that kind of reflected as like everyone else is getting cool pose shots and art and all that, and here's just Mineta just standing there.
I read a fanfic once. I read a fanfic once where Mineta is in the cast as a side character to roughly the same extent that he's a side character in the actual show, the canon show. But he was actually used relatively successfully as sort of like the normal person id. Like, he's in the hero course, like he's a top rank hero course, but he's clearly the weakest there, and he's clearly got the intimation that he's in way over his head. And so he's the one that reacts a lot of the time with very conventional fear. They try and do that with what's his name? The Red Riot guy. What's his actual name? They try and do that in the canon storyline with him, but he's got such a loud personality in other respects that it doesn't really come off as effectively as it could.
And the fact that he can be, when he really wants to be, nigh indestructible does not help.
But Minato doesn't have anything. His power, while there is interesting things you can do with it, it's never going to be overwhelming. And he's just a normal, if slightly perverted teenage kid. So he's a normal teenage guy.
He got sticky balls. That's it.
And so he's used relatively effectively in that fanfic as being the sort of like the guy who has the normal reaction to everything when everything going on around them is shonen level, and he knows that he's weak. Whereas, and I feel like that's really the role he should have played in the canon story as well, because he's got such an underwhelming power.
Yeah. Kaminari, that's the Red Riot guy. So
I thought Kaminari was the electric guy. Who's the electric guy then?
Oh, hang on, no, that might be Kaminari. Oh, the cast is so big, it's impossible to keep track.
Is it Kirishima? No? I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe. Yeah. At least he gets a moment to shine at the start of season 6. So that's good. He's not just the idiot. So he gets a moment to shine. There's a couple of episodes in there, and as well as at the end of season 5 where they're being a bit dumb, and the B cast gets to have their time in the spotlight.
I've also not really understood, maybe it's just I'm not part of the target audience, that the infatuation that much of the fandom has with Bakugo. Like, I don't think that he's cool. I think that he's a dumb thug. And he's okay as a foil to the main character. But I don't find him at all interesting on his own. He's just this sort of, gifted kid who has been able to cruise all his life on his natural talent, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to just believe that but he actually secretly works just as hard as everybody else, when it's not in evidence. And evidence is the fact that he's got the exact character of somebody who's cruised all his life on his talent.
Yep. And he does not handle it well anytime he comes up short.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I feel like they paint. Like I say, I'm not up to date with the story because I don't read the manga and I'm not up to date with the anime. But I feel like they've painted themselves into a corner as far as I've seen with him, because they never properly humble him. He's always got some way of excusing it to himself in his head.
Yeah.
And they let him have victories all the time to demonstrate how good he is, so he doesn't lose credibility as a foil to the protagonist.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to turn him into the guy who gets defeated in order to make the protagonist look powerful, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if you position him as like the Vegeta of the cast, he doesn't get humbled the way Vegeta does, and he doesn't grow out of it the way Vegeta does.
Sort of. Yes.
Well, Vegeta becomes a much more responsible and well-rounded person than Goku. Because Goku always wins.
That's fair, actually, yes.
He may be a bad dad, but at least he is a dad.
Yeah. Like, he's still an arrogant jerk, but he still does the right thing.
But he's a better person.
Yeah.
That's the thing. As a person, he's a better person. Because Goku is a bad person because he doesn't think about anything but himself.
Yeah. And Bakugo's never had that character growth. I think they've had a couple of moments in there where they've said, this is his character growth, but they've been just so badly written, it just doesn't mean anything.
I don't.
He doesn't manifest any like obvious change as a result of his alleged character growth. The thing is that the problem with Bakugo's character growth is that even after he has had character growth, you can always predict to a T exactly the way he will act in any given scene.
Yes.
Like, I don't think most people predicted that Vegeta would be the one taking Goku to task over not being a good parent.
No one saw that.
Nobody predicted that scene would happen, but once it did, everybody saw why.
Yeah.
It was obvious. This was the way the character arc was going. Bakugo never has that moment. Ever.
And he needs it.
He always behaves in the way that you would predict that he will.
Yeah. And he desperately needs it. But anyway, it's shonen, and you kind of just watch it while turning your brain off, so it's still fun.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I feel like all shonen are good for that in the early stages, but later on, they have to continue earning your interest.
Yes. I think, actually, of all things, Black Clover kind of did that really well.
Yeah, they were able to raise the stakes quite effectively, and they also were clearly not planning to drag the series out to ad infinitum.
Yep.
They had a plan to end it.
And they actually had character growth for Asta, where he stopped screaming, for one. Well, almost. But
he does have to learn to tamp down on it a bit.
He does. But he kind of grows into someone who is, instead of just a hyperactive spaz, he becomes someone who's dependable.
Well, the thing is that I feel like in his case they used the Naruto formula quite effectively. Like he's basically just a carbon copy, but
largely, yeah.
they do it right in the ways that Naruto did it right, like because they made him a genuine loser to start with.
Yeah.
Not in the way of like Izuku is a genuine loser to start with, but he's also got already preformed. He's got a relatively healthy character if he does have a bit of a Shiro Emiya hero complex. And then he wins the superpower lottery. So all he has to do is solve the mechanical problems associated with it, rather than those character problems. His character problems come into play later, because they're sort of the Shiro Emiya problem, where he thinks that he can just save people to solve problems. But he's in the case of Asta, he doesn't really have anything to work with except the fact that nobody is prepared for what he can do. But he has to luck his way to victory initially, which is the same thing that Naruto does to get all of his early victories, is that everybody reads him as a loser because he has a loser's powers, except that, he's got this one trick which means that he has, 100 losers worth of powers as opposed to one loser's worth of powers.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the shonen side of thing. The other good thing about Black Clover is they didn't take 15 years to get to that point too.
Yeah, I feel like Black Clover is sort of like Naruto if you trim out all of the filler, and by filler I don't just mean the things which are anime only, I mean all the stuff that didn't need to happen.
There's a lot of that. So yeah. As for games, I've gotten dragged into Darktide and got to play a little bit of the marketing beta.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth on this. With like, am I going to get involved? And I keep concluding, no, I'm not going to get involved. I promised myself that I wouldn't get involved until it was released as a complete functional product.
Yeah.
Because I have to set the bar somewhere in modern gaming, right?
You do.
A finished product is a pretty easy bar to cross, one would hope.
I'll come back to that later. But,
I have bemoaned this problem for eons now. That I want is the game to be done.
Yeah, I remember you praising Resident Evil on this basis.
Because it's actually completed. Darktide's not completed, and what they've put out as the beta, they've marked clearly as saying, this is an earlier beta build, it is not finished, there are issues. Like the fact that it still takes 5 minutes to load, even if you put it on an M2 drive.
Well, optimization is the last thing you do usually in the development cycle.
Usually, yes.
Because you don't know how many core code changes you're going to need until you're almost ready to go gold.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it is a load of fun. Unlike Vermintide. Vermintide had 5 characters, which kind of had their own banter going back and forth between them. You don't have the characters so much in this. It's basically build your own heretic.
You have to play as a heretic?
Well,
I'm so interested.
You start off in jail being tried for heresy. Because
well, that doesn't mean you're a heretic in the Imperium. That just means you're being tried for heresy.
It means you're just being tried for heresy. But, of course, Chaos guys turn up, and, in typical fashion, it's the Cult of Nurgle, because, of course, it is. You get busted out and end up proving yourself to the Imperium and become a conscript in the Imperial Guard, which is...
An a regular legion or a penal legion?
Penal legion.
Yeah, so that's not really... You don't really need to prove yourself as anything other than cannon fodder for that.
Your life expectancy is not greatly improved.
Yeah, the life expectancy of a penal legionnaire is like 1 sortie.
Yeah.
Normally they're sent out to die, explicitly to die.
Yes. If you actually survive, you are really lucky.
You didn't do your job properly.
Well, also that.
The idea behind the penal legions is functionally execution with honor. Like, that's what you earn. If you earn admission to a penal legion, you've earned the right to die for the Imperium.
Yeah. This is not really an official penal legion. It's more kind of a penal legion thrown together by the remnants of whatever's left over.
So basically, Order's fallen apart.
Pretty much.
So what type of world is this set on? Because there are different classes of world.
This is set just wherever, honestly. There's no one set world. Oh, actually,
Right.
yes, there is. I haven't looked too deep into the actual lore side of things, though. But it's
Most 40k stories are set on Hive worlds.
It is a Hive world that is being basically turned by the Cult of Nurgle at this point. And for some reason, they haven't pressed the Exterminatus button.
Well, the thing is, to get an Exterminatus to happen means you have to call in a ship with lance batteries capable of doing it.
Which they do not have, yeah. So, I'm not sure if they're trying to reclaim the world yet or not. I haven't progressed through the story that far. It's at this point, everything's just been damage control.
So okay, we'll go back to you create a character, right?
Yep.
So what do you do with this character? Is the character creation just aesthetic, or do you pick a class like you do in an RPG, or what?
Alright, so yeah, you pick one of 4 classes. You start off either with the Ogryn, the Zealot, who is your basic Psychotype, the Veteran, who is Guardsman Classic, and the Assassin, who is the Marksman, who is a Sniper. And then you get to customize them from there with various bits of war gear and whatnot as you progress. You also give them a personality, and they use whichever voice pack you pick in order to generate banter on the fly.
I know that they always want to include the Zealot as a way of including a magic class, but it doesn't really make much sense for 40k lore, to be honest.
Not really, no.
Because pretty much every cycle will be harvested by the black ships. That's why there are so few of them. Yet it's sort of like how you in every Star Wars game you somehow meet Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Like, what are the odds that you're actually going to meet Chewbacca in the galaxy? But
Yeah.
every person involved in a Star Wars story meets Chewbacca, and it's like that with Psychers in 40k. Like, there are supposed to be basically none of them around because they all get harvested by the black ships when they're like 6 years old.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's psychers everywhere.
Yeah, there's always one in every game. Like, if you're playing as a member of the Inquisition, then you can make sense of it because a lot of the more skilled cycles get brought into the Inquisition instead if they've got a patron there.
Mhm.
But random penal psychers is not really a thing in the lore.
Nope. So yeah, there's just a random penal psyker there, and going by I've been able to play against a few people with various voice packs, and it's worrying that the most stable person is the Ogryn.
Well, it's sort of like, have you seen the meme? There's the IQ normal curve meme where you'll have like the Unga Bunga guy on one end making a normal common sense statement, and then you have the sort of the midwit intellectual in the middle of the curve saying something directly to the contrary, and then at the top end you've got sort of the enlightened sage saying the same thing that the Unga Bunga guy does at the bottom of the curve.
Yep,
It's sort of like that, basically.
it is.
Ogryns are stable because they don't think too hard about things they don't need to.
There's things there, they punch them. That's basically Ogryn philosophy.
Like, it's sort of there's a lot of don't stare too deeply into the abyss in 40k, and Ogryns aren't really interested in staring into the abyss.
Nah. So, yeah, that's basically character creation there. Missions are more or less the same sort of thing you got in Vermintide. It's like, you are here, there is objective over there, and in between you and there is a whole bunch of, in this case, Nurglites.
Soft targets.
Yeah. So, enjoy, here's a big gun, off you go. And it is a lot of fun.
So how does skills development go? What sort of room have you got to create different characters once you've got a class?
There is a skill tree there, though I haven't progressed too far enough to be able to really explore it too much, because you can't, or at least in this build anyway, you can't just mouse over stuff that you haven't unlocked to see what it is.
Presume that's going to get fixed.
I hope that's going to be fixed, because I'd like to be able to see what's coming down the road and be able to plan accordingly.
That seems kind of important.
Yeah. I'd love, like, I'm playing the Ogryn at the moment because, I mean, you get a gun that's the size of your standard guardsman, and is probably actually more likely to survive. But, yeah, your special for the Ogryn is just a football tackle. You suddenly start playing Blood Bowl.
Well, I mean, in peaceful areas of the galaxy, that is a major employment for Ogryns outside of being, gang heavies and security detail.
Yeah. You actually, when you're generating your character, you get to pick a bit of a backstory as well, and that's essentially what your choices are for Ogryns, is gang heavies and farmers, things like that.
It reminds me of did you play Jade Empire?
I did.
There's a part where you meet this big guy, this big ogre guy who's like refuses to come home because he accidentally killed the ox, which was his friend.
Oh yes.
And that's what that reminds me of. And Ogryn farming reminds me of that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Really, it's a very simple game. It's like just go shoot bad guys. There is bad guys. Work as a team. Go shoot bad guys. But they put that much personality into it. It's just good fun. I did play a little bit of Vermintide too as well before, just to get a handle on things, and yeah, it's basically the same. They haven't changed a whole lot.
Well, I mean, a progressive evolution from Vermintide 2 is sort of like, well, you're working with good material to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
With 40k, the most important thing is always atmosphere.
Oh yes.
You have to get the environments right. You have to get the feel of it right. It's got to be oppressive but still fantastical.
Yep. And your guns need to must feel big, weighty, and girthy.
Yeah, you must be able to feel the Daka. Your water should vibrate when you fire.
Yep, and it certainly does. The Ogryn starting gun is a single barrel shotgun, but the shell is the size of someone's head, and it has the appropriate effect on whatever you shoot with it. So I hope you like Pink Mist.
Yeah, I presume that it will follow the Vermintide formula, and there'll be other classes
presumably coming down the line.
Released.
Like, it makes sense that there is at least going to be a tech priest class of some description coming down the path. And I don't know, whatever else you can probably think to put in there from the Igard legions.
Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be Imperial Guard specific. It could be any of the sort of the crazy hangers-on that are generally around the Imperial Guard as well.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the missionaries tend not to be part of the Guard proper, but you will always find them wherever the Guard go. Yeah. Providing sort of like support chaplaincy services and that sort of thing, except they're also all crazy and use two-handed chainsaws.
I mean, that's just standard issue, really. So yeah,
that's just a good faithful member of the Imperium, basically.
Yes. I'd like them to open up more options for like enemies, because at the moment, or at least in this build, it's all just Nurgle cultists. Whereas Vermintide, it had your Nurgle cultists, it also had the Skaven as well, and a few Chaos Marines and things like that around the place.
Chaos Marines in fantasy.
Well, they were basically Chaos Knights, but yeah.
Yeah, like Chaos Warriors have always sort of blurred the lines between are they actually wearing power armor and not. Because there's no, it's not like in 40k. In Warhammer Fantasy Battle, it's not like 40k where Chaos is a direct reflection of another faction. It's,
yeah.
It's a force all of its own with its own aesthetics.
Yeah.
And your Chaos Warriors and Chaos Chosen that occur in Warhammer Fantasy Battle look like they're wearing power armor.
Yeah, they do. And they're probably like sealed meat in a can. Once they're in the armor, they're not getting out of it.
Hey, probably they just when you sign up, you just get given roids.
Yeah,
I presume.
So they're there. They're big. They're heavy. They're hard to take down in Vermintide. I haven't seen any 40k Chaos Marines yet, but I expect they're there somewhere. Yeah,
I remember coming up against them, and like if you run up against them in games like did you ever play Fire Warrior?
Not Fire Warrior. I did play Space Crusade though.
Well, Fire Warrior is the one that I'm thinking of because in Fire Warrior you play as a Fire Warrior,
Filthy towel.
which means that you're number one, you're a space communist.
Yes.
But number two, you're also sort of like this weedy, spindly guy, and don't really have a lot of power behind you in terms of like raw physique at all. So you kind of have to make do with keeping enemies far at range whenever possible, like a good tower Fire Warrior would.
Yes.
When you run up against something in power armor, you basically wet yourself because it's enormous. Like, it towers over you. It moves really fast. It fires rockets with every shot, or what to your size look like rockets, and you can just sink entire mags into it and it won't stop moving.
Yeah, like a Fire Warrior is just a regular guy, basically.
Yeah, Fire Warrior's your regular tower grunt.
Yeah. Not like the gigantic Superman of a Space Marine.
Yeah, that's something that Fire Warrior has a lot of problems with. It. It's not a very good game on balance. And it's basically one of the mini games that Carbon copied Halo's shield mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
But it did a lot of things about scale right, because what you find in a lot of 40k games is that one infantry guy is more or less like another infantry guy, which means that a Space Marine is more or less like an Imperial Guardsman.
Yep.
Which isn't correct.
Correct.
Like you find a lot in a lot of games, for instance, that say a Space Marine bolter is modeled like in terms of like sound effect and style of projectile is modeled as though it were like an M4.
It ain't.
But it's not. It's a small rocket launcher. And Fire Warrior did a lot of that stuff really well. Like if you look at Dawn of War, bolters make a rattling noise like an automatic weapon.
Yeah.
They go.
And they should.
In Fire Warrior, it fires at a rate of like maybe 1.5 per second, and it makes a noise like boom, doom, doom. Like that's what a bolter's supposed to be like. It's really, really heavy, and when you are using one as a Fire Warrior, it takes up most of the side of the screen because it's huge. So I really liked the way they got scale right in that, and I think that's one of the many things I mean when I'm talking about for 40k you have to get the atmosphere correct. The sense of scale is one of those things. Like the scale in 40k goes all the way up. Like
Yep.
a Hive City is not like the height of the New York skyline.
No.
A Hive City is like, well, at the top you can't breathe.
At the bottom you can't breathe either, but for a different reason.
Oh yeah, for totally different reasons.
If you're at the bottom, you're probably already dead. Yeah, they are enormous worlds which are just massive arcologies. So, yeah. I mean, when you're talking about Citadel ships, which are the size of a planet.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of things about 40k scale which you can do, like your average like rogue trader pirate flotilla capital ship will have entire cultures on board that have never lived on a planet before for generations.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their own sort of towns and cities within the ship, within the belly of the ship. Because the scale of everything in 40k is so enormous.
Yep. Alright, so that's that. The other game I've played is Pokemon Scarlet.
Your downward lilt at the end of saying that suggests that it wasn't all that it could be.
I'm going to start with saying what's good about this game. But there is an enormous butt floating above this, which I'll come to.
Sky butt?
It's a sky butt. It's like a your mum joke that's coming.
That's a pretty fat butt.
It is an enormous butt. Might do the garlic guy, why not? Alright, so the game is great conceptually. Right, you start off, you have a huge variety of Pokemon you can get even on Route 1.
Let's go back even further than that. What's the engine this is based on?
this is based on the same engine that Legends Arceus is on.
So basically, this is the new generation of mainline Pokemon game.
Yes.
I can feel the sort of hesitation behind that.
Oh,
You don't really want it to set the precedent, do you?
No, I do not. And I'll come to it. I'll get there. Like, there is good stuff about this game. Like, again, you start off with a huge variety. Like, Route 1 has about 22 Pokemon on it. Not counting the starters.
Is that actually a good thing?
Eh?
Like, for environmental building purposes, that's a good thing. But in gameplay purposes, is that really a good thing for the way you're supposed to lead a player through a progression?
Well, a lot of them, if you want to find them, because the game is now open world, if you follow the path, you'll only find maybe 5. If you go off...
That's still more than Pidgey and Rattata.
Yeah. I think the later games, you ended up with about 5 on Route 1, and that was a bit... And most of that was like Route 1 rat, Route 1 bird. In this case, it's Route 1 pig. But, yeah, so anyway. A lot of the new Mons, I actually really like a lot of how they look and how they work. They've gone out of their way to make things actually look good in a lot of cases. They've tried to cover type pairings that they haven't done in the past as well. The game's not completely open world and freeform, but once you get kicked out of school for being 10 years old and not fighting the Mafia, I'm not kidding, your game opens up, but you're still restricted by level. So yeah, that's the whole plot basically, is you start off, you spend your first day at school, you're there for about half an hour, and then you're kicked out to go fight the Mafia because you're 10.
So
that's it.
What real world region is this
Spain.
based on? Spain.
It's based on Spain, which means everyone just randomly sprinkles in Spanish words.
Like,
And takes a nap in the afternoon.
I haven't seen anyone taking afternoon naps. Yet. Here's coming. So, yeah. There is a lot I like about this game. The gimmick this time around is terrestrialization. Whatever they want to call it. Terrestrialization. They wanted to put a big word onto this for some reason. It's make crystal. Make shiny. Mechanically, it's probably one of the least intrusive ones that they've done. It basically...
Why didn't they call it crystallization? People can pronounce that.
I don't know. Visually, the Pokemon turns crystally and it puts on a really big hat. That's it. That's its visuals.
okay.
Visually, it's really dumb.
Better or worse than in fattening?
Slightly better.
I go back to the same question I always ask. What was wrong with Mega Evolution?
Yeah. I mean,
You can't use the same gimmick twice. That's
you can't use the
wrong
same
with
gimmick twice. And that's a gimmick I think we should go back to, because everything else since then has been...
I don't think that they wanted to normalise it, though.
I don't think
that
they
they
do.
wanted specifically to avoid it. That's why they haven't used it again. Is because if they used it multiple times, it would become normal.
Mm.
And I really think they don't want that.
Yeah. So what... And I'm just going to call it crystallization because screw you. What it does is it forces the Pokemon to switch type to whatever its crystallized version is, as reflected by its enormous hat. And it will get double stab bonus, or same type attack bonus, for that typing.
So practically a guaranteed one-hit kill on anything that isn't a Chansey.
Largely, yes. The catch for this one, though, is you can only do it once per visit to a Pokemon Center.
So in battle...
Competitively, this will make no difference.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I understand why this mechanic exists.
it's just there. I honestly keep forgetting it's there until one of the gym leaders cracks it out.
It doesn't have any drawback or anything?
No.
Like you don't take double weakness at the same time or something?
Nope. Standard weakness rules apply. You do lose if your Pokemon has a secondary typing or even a primary typing of a different type, it will completely overlay those.
So you can erase your weakness, basically.
In exchange for another one, yes. But
Well, I mean, because that's all you need to do is bait out the counterplay and then use that.
Yes. There's no restrictions on who or what can use it. It's just once you unlock it, it's there for everyone. So it doesn't take up a held item slot.
I don't really feel like they add actual tactical depth. They just add tactical breadth.
Yeah. Not even that, not really.
That's doubtful even in and of itself. It's just sort of another gimmick, really.
Yeah. In this case, it just smacks of gimmick.
I wish they just hadn't made it a thing to do a gimmick. I wish now if they go back to basics and they don't include one, people will ask where it is. And that's kind of disappointing, but that's probably the way it is now.
To be fair, next generation, at least for the remake games, Megas are coming back.
Probably because it's the only one of these stupid gimmicks that people have liked.
Yes.
Because it has actual room for play and strategizing, and you can make cool looking Pikaman that the Pikaman people know instead of a bunch of new ones that people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've got to get artists to draw a whole bunch of additional Pikaman designs.
Yeah. Alright, so yeah, what else is still good about this game? There's various new typings, like they've filled out a good chunk of the roster. I haven't found all the stuff, because there's, of course, plenty.
They said that she felt like there was an absurd preponderance of fairies early on.
I'm actually getting the same feeling, but with ghosts, not with fairies. Lots of ghosts.
It's been a sort of an underused type, but it's also kind of a bad type.
It is kind of a bad type. Ghost, I think, needs some love.
Yeah, it was clearly balanced early on by the fact it couldn't be hit by fighting a normal.
Yeah.
But that just doesn't matter as much nowadays. I mean, that's helpful, but it's not the thing that's going to define whether your Pikaman is good or not.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there is plenty to like about this game, and there's some interesting ideas. And here comes the but. This game was coded by Neanderthals. So
they didn't release a finished product?
No, they did not.
Ari, your one condition, Ari, and they haven't managed.
They failed it.
I know. I gave up after the last one. I was officially done.
Sword and Board was at least a finished product.
I would call that a stretch, but yeah, you could call it finished.
You could call it finished, even though it was missing.
If you're being very charitable, you could convince yourself it was finished.
Yes, it ran, is what I'm going to say.
In the same way, you can call a ham and cheese sandwich technically a sandwich.
Well, yeah, it is technically a sandwich. I don't think I can afford more than that. Even if I'm Lunchable, so I don't want to hear it.
The step up that Sword and Board had, let's just start here at the bottom of the barrel, and then we'll start digging. Is when you could play through Sword and Board, start to finish, and not have the game crash.
Oh, goody.
Yeah, I found crashes, and one of them was chasing a boss down a hole. It's like, there's boss. Boss ran away.
Just the very idea, as a person who believes there's only 151 Pokemon, the very idea that Pokemon can just crash is just like this. You're suggesting the very strangest thing conceivable to me.
Yeah, that's a crash.
Like normally you had to do something like lever the cartridge out, or try and catch missing or.
Yeah. Incidentally, when you fight a random wild crystallized Pokemon in the wild, in a grassy field, you are fighting it in a field of missing nose. Because the grass, all the animated grass, and the crystallized light does not play nice with each other. It looks horrible.
I suppose we should be glad that it's not on the 3DS then.
3DS would probably actually handle it better.
It'd probably make your eyes bleed though.
Well, yes. So it gets worse. Like the game just crashing I could live with, but there's things like when you go into the classroom at the start of the game, half the class is nice and animated and they're moving around and looking at each other and waving and all that sort of thing. The other half of the class is stuck at 10 FPS in a broken animation loop, and they're kind of just grooving. And it's not just because they're background characters that don't have any part, because after the class has ended, those same characters are then properly animated.
I mean, but they did the same thing adequately in like Persona, right? Like when everybody is in class, everybody's sitting down working, so it doesn't matter what you animate them doing.
Yeah, But in this case, is extremely noticeable because they're operating all at 10 FPS, whereas everybody else is running at full 30 or whatever it is, 30 I think it's capped at. And they're all doing their own unique animations. These other guys, 10 FPS, all doing exactly the same animation.
In sync?
In sync.
Oh, that's the problem.
That's the problem. And it's not they're not just in the background either. Some of them are sitting right at the front row.
It basically ends up looking like a field of those wigglers in Monster Hunter.
Yep.
Just sort of swaying gently from side to side.
Yeah. So they're full on groove and they're kicking their legs and bopping around. It's really distracting. I forget entirely what that classroom scene was all about. Things like, I particularly noticed this one when doing the event, the mini game you got to do before you unlock the grass gym. You have to go chase a bunch of sunflora around the town, and they'll follow you. You end up with about 10 of them following you, but a few of them want to fight. And when you fight them, only that sunflora, and not your Pokemon or anything in the background, will drop to 10 FPS.
I see.
It will just start lagging. And the fight will lag as well, but everything else is still animated smoothly. And you find
did they have to release it before Christmas or something?
Yes, they did.
Delayed
actually.
it?
I'm going to say yes, they did because they wanted the Christmas rush.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking maybe they could have launched it in December instead of in November, and you know, sanded off some of the rough parts.
The worrying part is when you go back and look at the original trailers, and particularly when there's a shot of some windmills in that trailer, you can see the same issues in that. There's things like characters popping in when you're very, very close to them. And it's not such an issue when it's like small Pokemon in tall grass, because you kind of expect that. But when it's, you know, trainers, or large rocks, or the occasional truck. Oh, it's just... This game... There's so much I want to like about it. But the game should not have been launched. It should not have been launched. It should have spent another 6 months, probably, in optimization.
I think that people in the industry are going to be dramatically overvaluing the Christmas rush this year. I don't think people have the money.
I don't think they do either.
I think everybody is skint right now, and you would be better off releasing a juggernaut product that everybody has to have no matter what time of year it is, rather than one that people will buy just because of the time of year if they've got the money for it, which they might not.
Yeah. Like, they've put a fresh spin on the mainline Pokemon games. They actually dropped the quick and strong system from Arceus, which I'm sad to see go. That added a lot of tactical depth. Actual meaningful tactical depth too. But they've gone back to a more standardized formula, but it's like, here is an open world, and this is the half hour of schooling you do. It's like, here is the open world. Here is where all the gyms are. You can go and do that. Here's where all the lame team bases are, and they're basically like school delinquents who wear stupid helmets and glasses, and that's it. Like, here's their bases. Here's where the Titans are. They're basically just giant Pokemon with a bit of a boss fight attached to them. That's where those are. Off you go. Get out. That's the entirety of the plot. You unlock subplots as you do the gyms and whatnot. And, yeah, that's basically it.
So, yes, the subplot of here is the bathroom.
Yeah, actually... Thankfully, no. Like,
well, it just sounds like you're just getting a tour of a generic place, so...
Well, that's... Yeah, you don't actually do any schooling while you're at the school. They just suddenly realize that you're a whole 10 years old, so it's time for you to be out in the world fighting the Mafia.
I didn't realize that Pokemon Worlds had regular schools.
I know.
I thought everybody was just supposed to learn cockfighting.
Well, yeah, the only schools you see in Pokemon, everyone's like 6. No one's older than 10.
So you need to learn enough to count your Pokeballs.
That's it.
Presumably they'll teach you how to use money, though I'm not really so sure about that.
Yeah, that's questionable at best, because you tend to give away all your money every time you lose.
It's a very gambling-centric culture in a lot of ways.
It is, isn't it? So, you also have your 7th Pokemon slot, which is taken up by your legendary bike. And I called this right early on. Legendary is bike. Although the front of box legendary, I don't think is actually a legendary this time around. It seems like more like a mutant. But it's basically there as your form of transport, and it'll unlock new abilities as you go along that let you explore further. They put a lot of time and effort into actually trying to give this thing personality. It's a shame that there's clipping issues.
I mean, lots of games with clipping issues. That's not necessarily a terrible thing.
So yeah.
Like, a little bit of clipping by itself is not a deal breaker. A little bit of
clipping is an issue. Not a problem at all.
It becomes accentuated when there are other technical problems.
Yeah, you tend to start really critiquing even the small problems when there's huge ones. And yeah, this game should have been basically a kind of a wake up for the Pokemon genre as a whole, really, to give it a kick in the pants and make something new. And to a degree, it does that, but they didn't make a finished game. They should have finished the game.
Well, I don't know if that's what they needed right now. What they needed was just a slam dunk staple game after the disaster that was Sword and Board.
Yeah, Sword and Board was just a damn squib from start to finish. But instead, what we got is interesting game, cool ideas, great new Pokemon designs. Doesn't work.
It's kind of an important part of a video game.
There's also some troglodyte in there who insists on forcing their mini-map ideas on us. You know, the sort of reprobate who insists on having rotate mini-map turned on.
That won't let you change in the options?
That's it.
The thing that got us killed in Space Hulk?
Yeah, that thing. There is
I
never...
think us being banned is what got us killed in Space Hulk.
Well, I mean, yes. But, like... This is the sort of person who, when reading a map, turns south and then turns the map upside down. Why would you do that? It's a stupid mechanic and it has no place being anywhere. Not salty. Very salty.
Like, I am an inverted player. I am familiar with having the wacky control scheme or options menu toggle turned on. The first games I played with an analog stick were inverted, so it's just what I got used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I have never met anybody that does not play with the map locked.
Yeah. North is north. North is that way.
The whole point of a map is to provide a frame of reference.
Yeah.
It's not really a frame of reference if it keeps trying to jiggle out of the way.
Yeah. There's other things they need to do as well, like when you play multiplayer, basically all you're doing is existing in the same world. You're not really interacting too much. You can't join each other's battles, and whenever someone goes into a story area, they pop out of existence. Assuming the game just doesn't randomly disconnect from the internet for no apparent reason.
I presume the purpose is actually trolling.
Yeah. I think you can battle and trade, but that's about it. Or you can just go out and explore, and things that appear in the world drop
creative ways to make your character make lewd gestures.
Yeah. So yeah, you
this
can
is the
explore,
internet.
but, and here's a thing that really annoys me, your friends are marked on the main map. They are not on the mini-map. So if you're trying to draw someone over and say, here, there's a X Pokemon over here, come get it, they don't know where you are. And you can't just say, oh, it's to the south, because the map's turned backwards. Just why? Why, Game Freak? What is wrong with you?
There are a lot of things wrong at Game Freak, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Aside from the usual Game Freak problems, it sounds like this is just their complacency with, oh, we have Pikaman, so we can do whatever we want, and the people will eat it up.
Yeah.
There are no consequences for anything. It'll be fun.
People were, I think, were very willing to give Ruby and Scarlet, Scarlet and Violet a go, I think, this time around, because Legends Arceus was such a good step in the right direction. After Sword and Board, which was, blah, at best, Arceus was great. It had technical issues, and admittedly there was a whole lot of pop-in and frame drop once you started flying. Incidentally, I think this game does have the same glide mechanic in it, but which I haven't unlocked yet, and I'm dreading it. Because...
That was ominous.
Yeah. Well, Legends Arceus worked just fine. It was great until you started gliding. And even then, it was like there was a lot of pop-in and maybe a little bit of frame stuttering, but it didn't drag you out of the game too far. This is doing... Oh, Ruby and... Oh, damn it. What do they call it now? Scarlet and Violet. Red and purple. They do it when you're just walking down a hill. The pop-in is there all the time. The frame rate snags are there all the time. So what's going to happen when you start gliding?
Yeah, that's worrying.
You'll be racing to see whether you can get to the horizon first or whether it will draw in.
So...
I will share this with the class. I told Vol and Fern already. But the first video I saw of somebody playing this game that popped up in my YouTube recommends was titled Pokemon Violet Runs Like Stephen Hawking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crass, but it's accurate. Just you needed to really knock it out of the park here, Game Freak, and there's absolutely no reason you couldn't have. And you fucked it up.
They just needed a good, stable entry after the disaster of Sword and Board, and they needed to drop the once-a-game gimmicks, or just double down and commit to the only one anybody likes.
Yes. The raids are back, at least. Raids are fun, they've improved those, so now everything happens
I didn't think the raids were fun at all.
Well,
I thought those were terrible.
They were a slog, because everything took ages to happen. So now everyone just takes their turn in real time. And then the giant Pokemon will just react to whoever's just smacked it. And that happens in real time. So basically it's four fights happening concurrently with one hit point bar.
Okay.
Which is a lot better.
Yeah, the raids in the last game were not fun at all.
They were a slog.
It didn't help that you were fighting an enfattened Pikaman.
Uh-huh. Now you're fighting a shiny one. Or sparkly one.
But yeah, it doesn't sound like they did that. I'm glad I waited.
Yeah?
After the disaster of Sword and Board, I'm like, I'm not buying another Pikaman game, even if people talk to me about it, because that was just such a not fun experience.
Like, there's some things I liked about Sword and Board, none of which were actually really quantifiable. Like, well, the soundtrack was great. I like the soundtrack. I kind of appreciated the fact that the evil team was just drunk. But, yeah, that's... Honestly, Sword and Board made such a little impact on me, it's hard to even keep track. So that's why I'm picking at such low bar things to be appreciative of. It's not unfixable, at least. If they're diligent with their patching, they can fix a lot of these issues. The fact that they've in there in the first place at launch, though, is pretty damning. Anyway, I'm going to struggle with it. I'm going to finish it, and then odds are I'm probably going to put it down and never play it again unless they fix it.
And keep on riding that struggle bus for the sake of your Pikamans.
Pretty much.
Why did it have to be this way, though?
It didn't have to be this way. Game Freak just got lazy. And it's no good saying
such a good thing with Arceus. Like Arceus looked like this is a new direction they can evolve in. They just need to try and refine it a little bit.
Yeah.
And instead of refining, it sounds like they took more or less a backward step.
Well, when the game
sort of tried to jam the conventional format into it.
Yeah. When the game is working, then yeah, I'd actually be criticizing that a lot more. Like losing the strong and agile stance system, I think is a step in the wrong direction, a step backwards. But I can kind of see why they would want to do that and just bring that the new generation entry into just the mainline format. Except they cram their usual useless gimmick into it, and it kind of ruins that whole argument. But, there's so much in there I do like. Like I said, I really like the new Pokemon designs and the new moves and all this new stuff. The crystallize mechanic is completely forgettable, and you're going to just forget it's there most of the time until a gym leader uses the wrong type Pokemon as their headliner. Except for the grass type. He cracks out Sudowoodo and then he calls it the true Sudowoodo and turns it grass type. So, I mean, that guy at least gets it. There's also the electric type leader who is basically Gura, except without the charm.
Oh, the influencer gym leader.
Yeah,
the cringy one.
She's absolutely cancer.
Well, the thing is, we may think she's absolutely cancer, but it seems to have become a very dug-in fight online, that there are people who think she's absolute cancer and people who think she's just the most adorable thing ever.
So, yes, she's absolute cancer then.
Yeah, pretty much. Must be a Zoomer thing.
It must be a Zoomer thing.
That's just my explanation these days for anything I don't understand. Is just that it must be a Zoomer thing.
Makes us feel old doing that. But yeah, she's basically electric type Gura, visually.
Is she as dumb as Gura?
Well, she is an influencer.
Well, an influencer dumb just means that they're vapid NPCs, but Gura has short brain.
Gura does, and I'm not entirely sure how much of that is an actual act in her case.
It's not. I assure you there are people I know like that.
Yeah. I know at least one. No way, actually, he's even worse, so never mind. He has cowboy brain. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to chip through and finish the game at least, because especially considering I just went off exploring at one point and accidentally ended up at the top end of Victory Road. You can do that. As long as you can survive an area, you can just freely explore wherever you want, provided you've got the abilities to get there, which is great, until you try and pick a fight and get stopped. That's your own damn fault. I want to praise it. I want it to be a good game, but it's just not finished. So yeah, I'm going to leave.
You think that they are like? Have people made a lot of noise about like this? Is this something that they're actually going to look at fixing?
The people are definitely being very vocal about it.
Was it a worldwide simultaneous release?
It is. So yeah, everyone's basically saying there's a lot to like here, but it runs like arse, so we can't enjoy it. So we'll see. Like, Nintendo and Game Freak can be fickle, I guess, with their response to feedback, to put it nicely. Downright belligerent sometimes is probably a better way to put it.
Or they can just lie to you.
Or they can just lie. They've done that.
Remember in what game was it? It was Sword and Board. They said, "Oh, we had to make all these models from scratch." No, we can see that you literally ripped the skeleton from the 3DS version. You're just lying to us.
Yeah, it's no good saying that either that these technical issues are a result of the Switch either, because I played Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on that one, and that game has giant mecha running around, and there could be about 30 of them, and absolutely no frame rate loss in an open field.
For all its problems, does not have technical problems where the game starts stuttering.
No. I think playing through Xenoblade 3, it stuttered at one point. And that was it. It does have other issues though, but yeah, we'll worry about that another day. Overall, actually, I haven't talked about Xenoblade 3 on the show, but overall, I enjoyed it. I'm going to leave my week at that because, yeah, just disappointing. There is it's just even funny. Like, we should be talking about the fact that there is a pun in Pokemon form. It's a salt Pokemon called Nacli. Nacli. There you go. I knew someone would get it. If a terrible pun was the worst we could get out of this game, I think everyone would be happy. But no. Should we take a break or jump into Vols Week?
I actually need to go to the bathroom.
All right, well, let's take a break.
All right, here's some music, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Mules and doozy. So I'm done with my week. I've rambled long enough. I actually had stuff to talk about this week, so yeah.
Been a while.
It has been a while. So, Vol, what you been up to?
Well, it's going to continue to be a while for me because I still don't really have much to talk about. It's just been a rough week at work as usual, and it's probably going to continue for the foreseeable future, especially moving into the holiday rush period with not really the sort of manpower that I would like. We've got an awful lot of undertrained people that are going to have to be leveraged, and one person who, I don't know, like, they resigned because they clearly had expectations which were not being met, but those expectations were childish and unreasonable. Just one of those people who seems to think that when you start working for real, you should just be able to loaf around all the time like you did when you were a student.
Ah, Twitter employee.
Yeah, did you see the Babylon Beast skit about Twitter employees?
Oh, it's been glorious.
No, I have not seen it, actually.
Oh, I'll link it to you after the show. But they did a
I
skit
saw that they
about
did
this
one.
exact thing.
Yeah, but this seems to be a general problem. It's not just related to the tech industry. It just seems to be, you know, entitled late millennials, early Zoomers who are moving into the workforce and who think that it's supposed to be there to entertain them.
Adult daycare, I've seen it called.
Yeah, I don't know. But at any rate, we're starting to see some of those percolating into my workplace, and I'm not really that happy about it because they are not useful.
No.
But yeah, they also treat notice periods like a suggestion, so they'll turn in their resignation and then just not show up anymore.
Ah.
Like,
that's helpful.
Okay. There's just no sense of obligation anymore, apparently. People don't think that they should have to follow through on the things that they agreed to.
Yeah, that's what I've observed.
Anyway, that basically means that I have more work than I would like, generally. I'm doing about 3 people's worth of work at this point, and it doesn't look like it's going to change any time in the near future. So it's going to be a rough Christmas period for me. I don't think I'm going to get much in the way of leave. Oh well, I've got. I took a long weekend this weekend to sort of like prep myself for it, and also because it seems like everybody else at work takes their birthday off, so I decided I would take my birthday off as well. Yeah. In terms of entertainment related things, I have not done very much on FF or elsewhere really. Mainly, it's just been me lacking the energy to do such things at the end of the day. Gacha wise, there hasn't been much happening either. There's just a rerun of the last year's Christmas event in Pinecone at the moment because everybody's sort of ramping up to see how Crunchyroll will manage to scuff the big storyline event.
Yeah.
Where we get to fight Kaiser Insight at long last. And yeah, well, we got absolutely teabagged by the Robo Llama. I don't see any reason to believe this will be any different, to be honest.
No.
Like, we don't have the player base size that Japan does. We simply don't. And yeah, I don't know how well. Ari, do you happen to know at all how well Japan did during this event?
I think they cleared during the Kaiser event. I have no idea. I haven't even looked up what the event entails because I was saving it to be a surprise.
Well, the thing is that they've made official announcements, so that you can prepare. Because they have a very, very limited character roster is allowed to be used. Unless the character is theoretically present in the story, you can't use them.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't looked into it at all. The only prep work I've done for it is get caught up on the story. So.
Yeah, well, so there are 2 things that you really got to do. You get caught up on the story and get caught up on leveling and gearing any characters who were involved in the story. Because those are the only ones you can use. And each of the 4 bosses has a different... Because there's 4 raid bosses and then there's a storyline boss. And each of them has a different pool of characters that are present at the time who can be used to fight them.
Oh, so it's not just the story overall, it's that part of the story particularly.
Yes, they have to be in that geographical location in Astrum in order to participate.
That just narrows things down even further.
So if they're not there, then summer ones also count as being their base form for the purposes of where they are in the story. So if you can use Saren in a place, you can use Summer Saren in a place. But that also means that if you are fortunate enough, unlike me, to have both Saren and Summer Saren, it means your two heavy-hitting TP batteries are both located in the same place and can only be used for that one boss.
She's also relegated to like the farm or something right now in the story, I think. Somewhere way out of the way, nowhere near the biggest fights that look like they're going to be the big headliners.
All the four main bosses are going to be... They look like they're going to be the same type of fight, roughly, in the sense that they are not in escalating power or anything like that. It's not like a progressive thing. But they all have different attributes. So one of them will have like a ridiculously high defense, and of course Makoto is not in that fight. So, because that would be too easy, right? But and one of them's gonna have, I can't remember them. Anyway, there's four different sort of loose battle themes around, like different bosses will maximize different stats type of thing, and you have to build a team that can get through that. The actual difficulty level, I have no idea what it's going to be like, or if there's going to be any scaling or anything like that. Somehow I doubt it. I think it's just going to be Robo Llama Take 2, which was really an unpleasant experience for me. I don't know if you fared any better in that fight, because I sure didn't. Well,
that happened like not too long after you started, right? So
yeah, it was painful. It was deeply unpleasant. I was humiliated. But then I was not the only one, it seemed, because we got teabagged as an entire server. So, yeah. But yeah, so that event is coming up. I still haven't caught up on the story. I'm pretty close to catching up on the story, but I just haven't had the free time to do it. I'll have to finish it off.
What chapter about you up to?
I think I just finished chapter 13.
Okay, so 14's a longish one, and then 15's a half chapter right now.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, that's a thing. That's the thing that's happening there. I don't know how useful I'm going to be, because I've only built up enough characters to make like one team, maybe two teams at a stretch. So with most of those characters just sort of taken out of the equation, I probably won't be able to field a team that's much good. The part that they've put in there to ease that is that you can borrow 3 support at no mana cost from your guild or friends list. So you can pad it out a bit of other people that you know have built those characters. But because it's entirely story based, there are odd things that don't really work that well. Like, for instance, I think all of my tanks are in the same fight. So all of the ones that I built are in the same fight. So that might be rough. But yeah, there's a lot of jank involved, and I have no idea how the server is going to do as a whole. There's been a lot of doomsaying online. In fact, it's been exclusively doomsaying online. I haven't seen any optimism whatsoever about how badly we're going to get shreked. Yeah, so I'm not sure whether or not I should look forward to that. So yeah, have not really done anything else in that game as such. I managed to get to floor 100 in Tower of Luna. That I did do. I don't have a lot of free time, but since I outstrip them in level enough, if I have a quiet day at work, I can just like occasionally tap my phone to start the next fight and let Nenica wreck them, which seems to be the ideal strategy at the moment. Yeah. FGO is in a quiet period right now. Everybody was sort of rumble, why is there nothing to do, rumble. A lot of dissatisfaction percolating around because Heian-kyo got delayed. Well, delayed, not that they scheduled it and then changed the date, but delayed and that everybody expected it to happen and then nothing happened. But as it turns out, that this is because they wanted Anime New York Con thing to happen first, where they announced that they're implementing the pity system early, which is a mixed blessing. It all depends on how they let it play out, really, because people, roundly speaking, have felt that the pity system was a net negative in Japan, because of the effect that it had on the way they structured the banners. So the pity system is a very rudimentary pity system with a lot of fish hooks in it. Namely, that you need to pull 330 times to trigger it.
Yikes!
It can only trigger once, so you need to have 900 quartz in the bank. It can only trigger one time, so you can't use it to stack a second one, and it will only last for the current banner. So if the banner rotates multiple times during an event, you've got to do it all on the same banner, because you'll lose the pity as soon as it rotates.
Oh.
Now, that's tough enough as it is, but the problem is, the reason why people feel it's a net negative rather than a positive, is the fact that the only thing it does is protect people who have hoarded a huge amount of quartz. It does not, and their whales, of course. It gives the whales a reason to spend a fixed amount of money on every banner. But the problem is that for all us normies who play the game normally, you have this annoying problem where they restructured the banners such that there are now no longer banners in Japan where the 4-star rotates while the 5-star stays fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't target 4 stars anymore. It's just all of the 4 stars on that banner are on every banner. And it's just the 5 stars that rotate. So targeting the 4-star you want is basically a no-go now. And this has understandably rustled a lot of jimmies, and I think they're actually trying out some sort of compromises of various kinds in the Japanese server, but generally people are not very happy with the whole thing. So part of me is glad that there's a pity safety net, but the other part of me is glad that is unhappy that I probably won't be able to target Bavanshi when she comes out in the North America server, who I was hoping to target, because she's basically like older Liz. But except not as old as Carmilla. The question, of course, though, is if they are implementing the pity system early, does that mean that they are going to defer excluding the 4-star rotations early as well? Or are they going to keep those in place temporarily for as long as they were on Japan and then follow suit with Japan's banners? If you had asked me this time last year, I would have said, oh, they're obviously just going to do what Japan did. So we're going to have all of the banners where they continue to rotate are going to continue to rotate. But of late, the other servers around the globe have not bothered to follow the Japanese precedent. So there's not really any way to know now what is actually going to happen. It could go either way. But Heian-kyo should come out shortly, though. Probably will come out next week. Most people are guessing. It's quite an important storyline, in the sense that it's not a lost belt, but it's basically like chapter 5.5. It's got a lot of ongoing story implication. So I'm interested to see how that's going to be structured and what's going to take place in that event. We know most of the characters, of course, because we've got Clairvoyance EX from being able to look at what the Japan server was doing. But there's still it's still interesting to see the story in detail for me, because I've managed to keep myself very, 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 very unspoiled on all aspects of the story into the future, pretty much, except for these are the characters that are going to be participating. Unfortunately, the main new big 5-star for Heian-kyo, they are Limbo, who I don't care about because he's a weirdo, and Ibuki Doji, who I would care about, except that she's absolutely useless in actual gameplay terms. Just there's not really any reason to use her. It's not that she's a strictly bad or poorly designed character. It's just that she will be she will be power crept immediately, and B, she doesn't really have a niche to fill. She's just a really unga bunga buster AoE staber. So there are plenty of Unga Bunga Buster AoE sabers already in the game, and other ones not really going to make much difference. So yeah, I'm not really that interested in the banners, which is good because it's just another reason not to be tempted, since 2023 is going to be a brutal year for trying to ration one's quartz because of the Fae Lost Belt coming out, which has got a lot of popular characters in it that people want. Unlike most of the player base, I don't give a toss about getting Morgan Le Fay, because the only Buster Berserker, AoE Berserker that I need is Kiyohime, so I don't really care about her. That's what most people are saving their quartz for, but there are lots of other characters in that sort of middle of the year period that I'm hoping to get. Don't know how I'm going to get enough quartz for it though, since I'm planning to blow all of my quartz on the Saber Wars 2 rerun, so that I can try and get a second copy of Space Ishtar. Space Ishtar is not going to be meta forever. She doesn't stay meta. She gets replaced pretty quickly in the meta, for that matter, over the course of 2023 when other options become available. But what she does do is that she's always applicable, because she can change the card type of her Noble Phantasm to any of the 3 cards. She can fit in any meta framework. Like, you can use her as a double Skadi system servant. You can use her as a double Castoria system servant. You can use her as a Koyanskaya Oberon system servant. Like, you can use her however you want. So she will often find a farming niche, even if she's not the optimal one for every node. There will usually be a way to use her in a suboptimal fashion to cover your bases. So if you're looking at gameplay roles, she's definitely a very good option. The other ones to roll for are that I'm going to roll for Bavanchi, as I mentioned earlier, because she's basically Liz. Melusine, because she's adorable and she's also an excellent farmer, even though she's a Lancer class as opposed to an agnostic class. And Koyanskaya of Light, who enables a lot of Buster looping shenanigans, which shouldn't be possible, because Buster isn't supposed to be able to loop. And Oberon, who is an icky boy, but it's all in the service of, if you have Koyanskaya and Oberon, you can manage to concoct a method that will let Kiyohime loop despite having no NP batteries of any kind. And that's what I'm aiming for. Unfortunately, they all appear in 2023. Like, 2024, there's not really anybody in 2024 that I'll care about. 2023, on the other hand, is loaded. So, yeah, I've got to try and ration my quartz. Yeah. I've got about 600 at the moment-ish. Because I blew tons of it.
Any idea if you're going to get a second attempt at some of those banners?
There will be lots and lots of attempts in short order for the ones that feature in the Avalon Le Fay chapter of the main story. So Morgan will get multiple banners, Melusine will get multiple banners, Bavanchi will get multiple banners, Barghest will get multiple banners, but they all happen in a relatively short amount of time, and then there's a big gap. Except for Morgan, who gets banners over and over and over and over again, because she seems to be like a really, really super popular waifu at the moment. Like, as popular as Jolta was back in the day. Even though she's just a Saber face. Like, she's got the same colour palette as Saber Alta, except she's a Berserker. Not really sure. It's probably because everybody but me knows what the story is, and I don't know anything about the story. So maybe she's particularly endearing in story, and that's why everybody's waifuing her so hard, but I don't have that to go on since I'm going to remain unspoiled. But yeah, so I'm still in quartz hoarding mode. I've got about 600 in the bank, keeping more in the bank as much as possible, not planning to spend on anything, planning to completely forgo Muramasa despite his being incredibly meta. And he's an icky boy, so, I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah, that's that one. I haven't watched any new anime, haven't had time really. Have continued watching the Arknights one because other than just being the kind of bland fare that gacha to anime adaptations often are, it's not really all that bad. Like, it's not that good either. But the world of Arknights is a relatively interesting one. So, I think you can tell the story better than it's being told, and you can tell a better story than the one that they're telling in that universe. But it's okay. It's okay the way it is. It's not objectionable in any way. Yeah, I think it's okay. I'm not that bothered by it. A lot of people seemed to be really down on it initially, but I don't think it's really that bad. Not really sure exactly why people were so down on it as they were, but oh well. Really not for me to reason why. I don't get it. But there you have it. What else did I do this week? For some reason, there is this one company in New Zealand that insistently starts Black Friday sales like a month early. And I'm pretty sure that the only reason is that they know that if they started a month early, then they'll get in there before everybody else. And everybody will spend all their money there. Which is, from a business point of view, I can see that. I get you. I know where you're going with that. That makes sense.
Honestly, there's really no reason not to down here.
Because we don't have Thanksgiving.
We don't have Thanksgiving.
Absolutely no significance to us whatsoever.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall in line with any particular holidays or anything. Like before Black Friday became something that people talked about like online as a result of reporting the chaos that the Americans got up to at that time of year. That it was just Labor Day sales here instead, because our Labor Day is in October. But nowadays it's Black Friday anyway, so Black Friday sales are taking place. So I decided that I'd had enough of using my incredibly beat up and rattly old membrane keyboard. It served me well for well over a decade, but I'm sort of gradually piecemeal replacing every part of my computer so that I can demote all of the old stuff to the living room, because I kind of want to set up out there a computer and get some exercise equipment so that I can do exercise out there.
Mm-hmm.
Since I don't entertain guests, I don't really need the living space, so I kind of want to do something useful with it. So yeah, that's why I want to sort of free up the keyboard as well. Plus, it was just getting really kind of tired. Yeah. I bought, to replace it, a Corsair K70, which is a relatively pricey keyboard. Not like crazy pricey the way you can see some of them are, but relatively feature complete mechanical keyboard. I had no idea what switches to get. I just got because people act like it's this incredibly big deal. So
it's really not.
At any rate, I got Cherry MX Reds, which are sort of like your standard gaming switch, the sort of medium in every category, linear path of travel. It's interesting trying to get used to it. It certainly feels very different to my incredibly old membrane keyboard, and has a much longer displacement to register than I was used to, because if you bash a keyboard long enough, it ends up pretty flat in terms of you touch a key, it registers, because the membranes are so worn. But this one, of course, now I have to press the key proper in order to get it to register. But that's the way it's supposed to be. This is not actually a bug, it's a feature. If I had wanted it to be super touch sensitive, I could have gotten speed silver switches instead, but I wanted something a bit more mainstream and normal, since it's sort of like the midpoint. But yeah, it seems to be a relatively solid keyboard. It's got nice build quality. It doesn't have any obnoxious things. No unpleasant gimmicks that I'm supposed to find interesting that are very much not, which was what I'm afraid of with gaming gear these days.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to distinguish themselves from everybody else, often by doing things that are categorically unwise. But yeah, it's got a good feel for it. It lights up because everything does these days. I'm not quite sure why, but yeah, lighting things up is important apparently. Has a few interesting features, not many. There's relatively no frills other than having all the basic things I wanted, like media keys and detachable wrist rest, because I'm never sure whether I like to use or don't like to use a wrist rest, so I kind of want to have one available. And it's got a button that you can press on it, which I find quite useful, which allows you to lock the Windows key plus certain other key combinations that you specify from happening.
That key, I didn't know I wanted it until I had it.
I have always wanted it. I was never able to really articulate exactly what it was that I wanted, but this does exactly what I wanted, and the reason for that is that in FF, which is my main drug of choice, my Alt key is the key that I use as my modifier.
Yep.
But it's a tab targeting game.
Yep.
So occasionally you also want to tab, but if you are holding down Alt, because my normal quote unquote setup is that my normal rotation will be on non-modified keys, and the AoE equivalents will all be on the modified keys, is the way I normally set up my bars. So in an AoE situation, when I'm trying to tab around because there's lots of targets, the Alt tab is a thing that happens on the regular and causes me to freak out on the regular. So having the ability to just switch that off entirely, like it just can't happen anymore, is revelatory. That's something I'm very much enjoying.
Yes. Now I wish I just had a switch that would deactivate Cat. Because cats have a habit of finding key combinations you never knew existed when they walk on your keyboard.
I don't think that there's a button for that.
Sadly, no.
Like, even if you feed them, they'll still come back as soon as they're done.
Oh yeah, because they don't want attention.
Sometimes even after you feed them, they'll just refuse to eat and then pester you some more.
Oh yeah, mine does that all the time. He's kind of an ass because, cat.
Yeah, that's just, part of what you should be expecting to get yourself into if you're going to be a cat person.
It is how cats do.
The cat is unpleasable because pleasing it is not the point. Making you do things is the point.
Yes.
But yeah. I'm relatively happy with it. It was expensive for what it is, though. Having that button, I did not realize how useful it would be, how much it changes my experience. But other than that, it doesn't really have much to offer. So it's not. I mean, it'll come down to long-term build quality, right? Like how well this hold up long-term. And there's not really any way of knowing that until you put it through its paces for an extended period of time. But it does feel like a solid piece of kit. I don't know that you can change the switches. I think you normally have to. For most keyboards that aren't designed specifically for swapping keys all the time, you've got to break out the soldering iron if you want to change the switches, but I don't think I want to be that kind of enthusiast. No. If I decide I want to do that, then I will just get a kit and build a keyboard from scratch instead.
Yeah.
Which is an increasingly popular hobby. But, yeah. And with a bunch of little extra keycaps for certain keys, if you're the sort of person who, for some reason, wants your WASD keys to look different or whatever. But I'm not using any of that. It's been a bit hard to get used to, though, as well, because my previous keys were relatively low profile, and these are sort of normal-shaped keys. So the top surface that you touch is slightly smaller, and the gaps between them are slightly wider. And so there's a lot of very, very marginal mistakes that I keep making, which is starting to get on my nerves a little bit. But that's the sort of thing that wears in with time. Like, I can remember when I first got the MMO mouse, I basically couldn't use it. I was never hitting the right button. It was a disaster every time I tried to use it. But over time, I've sort of gotten used to it. So hopefully the same thing will apply to using this new key layout. But yeah. What else did I do? I fitted a new Noctua fan to my case to try and increase the airflow across the graphics card, but in the end it wasn't really that necessary, since I decided that the better option was to just cap my frame rate in the games that I play to like 120, so I've got a huge amount of excess frames, but the graphics card is not furiously trying to render 300 frames worth of completely undisplayable detail.
Yeah, it's
causing the thing to rev up like a chainsaw. Yeah, because it could get really, really loud, but it's just not necessary to render all that extra stuff. Like my my monitor can display up to 165 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
So 165 frames in theory.
Your
But,
Mark 1
I mean-
eyeball can't keep up with anything much higher.
Yeah, my eyes can't see it. Like, humans can't see individual frames. Humans can't actually identify individual frames below 60. It's not possible. People can sense the difference between 60 and 90 to 120, depending on the person. They can sense the difference, but they can't see it. They can, as a gestalt, you can tell that something's different. But at 120, everything is much of a muchness, and so there's not really any reason for me to try and render more than that. If I just let the thing run free, in say Final Fantasy, it's like, oh well, you really want to have in excess of 200 frames per second, right? I'm just going to spin the fans up to maximum and shriek at you to render all of these frames you never asked for. So rather than having my graphics card roar at me when I play Final Fantasy, I just kept it, and it seems to be working quite fine now. Things are running nice and cool. Like the CPU is usually running at about 50 to 53 degrees when playing FF, and the graphics card sort of sitting between 65 and 75, which is quite comfy for a graphics card. Yeah, and it's I managed to get the noise levels down to the point where it's fairly comfortable. There are still parts of the fan curve where it makes a racket, basically due to resonant frequencies and things. Because when you've got 3 different fans on a graphics card, they tend to spin different directions, which sets up vibrational frequencies at certain points in the fan curve. So as it's spinning up, it'll start to make a few squeaky noises on the way up, and then it'll steady out, which is sort of a bit of a distracting thing if you're spinning it up and slowing it down all the time, but usually that's not happening because I'm the sort of person who settles in to play one game for 4 hours at a stretch, so yeah. Anyway, I don't think I really have much else to talk about that I can think of offhand. I did play a tiny sliver of whatchamacallit. My mind is betraying me. Near Replicant. I made a start on it, which basically involved me bullying sheep because the
Oh boy.
whatchamacallit, FF servers were down and I didn't have a game that I wanted to play, so I fired it up and I started killing sheep. And that was basically all that I did because I felt the need to exterminate all the sheep every time I went through the area.
You can make a lot of money doing that.
Like, there's no reason to try and exterminate all the sheep because the sheep will just respawn, but I couldn't not kill them.
You can make a lot of money doing that.
I wasn't paying attention. Can you now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to go, full retard on it. I'll probably try and complete enough endings to see, a reasonable amount of story. But the sort of overriding sensation that I have when playing that Yoko Taro game is like, I will see a thing and I will think to myself, oh, I wonder what that's about. The problem is that because it's a Yoko Taro game, I have no idea if it will ever get explained or not.
Also, you have no idea whether it's an intentional part of the game or not, because it's a Yoko Taro game.
Yeah. Anyway.
Or it's just there to screw with you.
Yeah, it's sometimes it surprises me, like when your main character tells the sister to go home from the library when she wasn't supposed to be at the library. My immediate thought was, oh, well, there's no way she's going to be obedient, right? But then she was obedient, which just means that I suppose that in order for the trope to be fulfilled, she has to be disobedient later. But yeah, so far in the very few minutes that I played it, it's a relatively welcoming sort of game, which says to me that things are going to get a lot worse because Yoko Taro is involved.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like they would not set you up in a comfy place if they weren't going to tear it out from under you in the most brutal fashion they could concoct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it for some reason, for like the first couple of attempts, it refused to cooperate with my controller at all, and then it just capitulated all at once for reasons I don't really understand.
That is likely because around the time Final Fantasy was updating this week, Steam did an update and completely redid their controller help system.
Oh, that explains a bit.
Yeah, it is totally different now. It's better now, but I learned how to use the old janky clunky system, so now I don't know where anything is.
Well, I never understood the old system. I don't understand the new system either. So long as it works, I'm not going to question it. But yeah, I was sort of like, I'm already taken aback. Like it managed to completely confuse me within the first couple minutes. In that the tutorial section is there, and then it's like you've got all these powers, and then suddenly it's like, what, 1,000 years later or whatever, and it's like, and then things are exactly the same, and I'm like, oh, what is going on?
Yeah,
it hasn't been 5 minutes yet, and I already don't understand anything.
He will explain that much of the story. Especially, you do have to read the notes. There's really no getting around that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing, really. It's like, do I read the notes to find this out? Like, is this something that I can learn, or do I have to go and watch the sodding stage play? Like, how will I know? Will I know if it's going to be explained or not? Anyway, I am looking forward to playing a bit more of it. So it never gets like legitimately challenging from a like a raw mechanical skill required perspective, does it?
No.
Yeah, because as long as it doesn't, as long as I don't need to be able to play Dante Must Die, then I won't get frustrated with it. But I don't mind having a little bit asked of me to bring skill to the party. I just don't want to have to become autistic in order to play it.
No, once you unlock magic, you win the game.
Right. Anyway, I'm okay with that. And also, the other thing is, like, does it have any, like, roadblock bosses that are just obnoxious and you're going to have to do them 500 times because they've got a gimmick that basically doesn't come down to real skill?
Windy is obnoxious and exactly like that. In the Aerie, in the second half of the game, the second to last boss before the big finale stretch, there is a giant floating thing in the middle of a town called the Aerie. And the Aerie is a town in a canyon. And it is situated on the inner cliffs of the canyon. And it is held together by a network of rope bridges and suspension ladders that don't exactly go where you would expect them to. And you have to navigate this place while you fight the boss.
Fantastic.
It is the only one I can recall being just really, really bad.
No, if it's not going to throw one of those at me every half an hour, I should be fine. But, yeah, I'm interested to play more of it. Mainly I'm playing it as a preparatory for Nier Automata. Not that I expect them to necessarily segue into each other exactly, but it's better to know more than less, I suppose, if I want to at least enjoy the story. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have much else to talk about there, so I will just pass the baton over to Ari.
Alright. So, what did I do this week? So the first few days this week were okay. Not that bad at work, and then I got drowned, and then I died one day. And just didn't do anything. So my later half of the week, I've done literally nothing. But at the start of this week, I cleaned up Bayonetta 3. And that's done and dusted. I posted the trophy showcase. I got all pure platinums on the hardest difficulty. I'm not doing the full all difficulty run. There are too many gimmick stages, and I don't particularly feel like memorizing their layout for every single difficulty. I'm just not going to do it. I'm drawing a hard line. You cannot make me do the Rosa Flight section with a boss at the end and take no damage the whole time perfectly every attempt I make on every single difficulty with a different enemy layout on every single difficulty. It's not happening.
Yeah, it just sounds like no.
Yeah, so there was that. The big finale I saved for the end was the Rodan fight. And Rodan, well, he didn't disappoint. He's basically his Bayonetta 2 incarnation, but even more. So in Bayonetta 3, he relied a lot on projectiles in his form. He could fly around. He had a whole bunch of gimmicks to him. In Bayonetta 2, he was a grounded brawl with you in his demon form. And that's the form they brought back for this game. No hybrid form or weird shenanigans like that. It's just Rodan in his demon form going mano-a-mano with you on the ground. And I was very thankful for Rodan because there's a type of mechanic in the game where if an attack sends out a shockwave, it will dispel any demon you have summoned. And like half of Rodan's abilities do this. So this means...
No demons for you.
This means you actually have to play the video game.
Yay!
And so Rodan made me quite happy. Now you still have to use the demons. Their mechanics are absolutely necessary because to make up for this, Rodan can break witch time. As in he can just turn it off.
Oh.
Whenever he wants. You will activate witch time from a regular dodge. Even a bat within dodge, which is the will give it to you because you bought the skill from the store dodge that normally gives you maximum witch time duration. He can just turn that off, and there ain't anything you can do about it. And then you got.
Does he always do it, or does he do it randomly, or?
That's the thing. It's not consistent, and you just got to be ready for him to turn off your witch time, and you got to get back to dodging. Now, this presents a bit of a problem if you're playing Bayonetta, and I could not pure platinum the fight with Bayonetta. It was driving me nuts, because if you play the Bayonetta games at any high level, you know there's a character difference between Bayonetta and John that's been consistent across the whole games. John has less HP, doesn't matter if you're going for pure platinum, he can't get hit anyway. Cannot activate witch time off normal dodges, and can only activate them off of Bat Within, Moth Within is what it's called for her. So you have to do a frame perfect dodge, but you can buffer it by chain dodging so that the attack will slow down slightly and give you time to hit. So where you would normally trigger witch time, when it doesn't trigger, it still slows down a very little bit. So that's why in the video you see me. I posted a video of it. I'll dump it in live show chat so y'all can see what I'm talking about. And you can see how I did the fight. And you'll see me just frantically chain dodging. And the reason I'm doing that, even though it gives me no tangible benefit, is because I'm trying to buffer Moth Within dodges. And also hope I get lucky on dodging some of his just completely unreadable 2-frame attacks. So he had 4-frame unreadable attacks before that were practically unreadable and unreactable. He has 2-frame ones in this one.
Very fun.
So he's doubled down on his unfair. So you have to be, when you are not engaged on offense and Rodan is in hit stun, you've got to be dodging. And with Bayonetta, when you dodge 3 times, your 4th dodge will send you into a spin, and she'll kind of stop at the end of it, and this will get you killed in the Rodan fight. Because all it takes is for him to do one of those 2-frame startup moves, and there's your pure platinum gone.
Right.
It'll also do half your health, so if you take 3 of them, you're dead.
Does that spin actually do anything, or is it just there to mess you up?
No. It is there. You've been chain dodging with Bayonetta too much.
Right. So, yeah, it's just to punish you.
Yeah. So John also does more damage with Wicked Weaves, but Wicked Weaves don't really exist in the same fashion they used to. So I don't think this bonus is applied in this game. And it doesn't matter anyway, because I didn't use any Wicked Weaves. There's a weapon called Tartarus that is just a giant door that goes to the clock tower that you fight on at the prologue of Bayonetta 1. That thing's door is an amazingly good weapon that I didn't realize was really good until halfway through my Unlimited Climax run. And the reason it's really stupid good is because half of its attacks have guard point on them. They can just block an attack for you. They won't trigger witch time, but they will stop you from losing the entire verse to a sloppy mistake by attacking when you weren't supposed to. So, it was my go-to weapon here because you just don't know when Rodan's going to break witch time. If he breaks it early and you're punching with Tartarus, you can block 1 hit. And that gives you just enough time, or at least gives me just enough time to realize he's doing something. I need to go back to dodging now. And it's a very, very fast fight. There is one way around his turning off witch time, and is what I used my demon summoning exclusively for. The clock tower summon itself, because you can just summon the whole dang clock tower now. And it turns out this thing is kitted out in all kinds of heavy artillery and various bobs and doodads that are all magical in some way. But the important one is the neutral jump while you're summoning the demon. You quickly summon the clock tower. It's the fastest summon to bring out, and you press the jump button, and you get your finger off of that demon summon button and back on the dodge button. And in about 2 seconds, the clock tower will ring its bell and trigger a manual witch time that he does not break nearly as often as a normal witch time. So you got that going for you. And other than that, it's just learning his attacks. He has 3 new attacks in phase 2, where he turns into his demon form, that are different from Bayonetta 2, though. He has replaced his he decided his one grab attack that was a one-shot where he smokes a cigarette and he laughs at you as you die in one hit. His Rodin Raging Demon. And he has replaced that with 3 of them.
Oh, joy.
Well, 2 of them, technically. 2 of them are grabs. One of them is a vacuum grab, where he'll teleport a short distance away from you and reach his palm out, and it'll start glowing purple. And you have got to get as far away from him as possible, otherwise he'll vacuum you into his hand and do his Raging Demon that ends with you on the ground and him smoking a cigarette. And the other one is just his very similar to his standard grab from Bayonetta 2, but he can now do it in the air. So he can do it on the ground and in the air. So, and you just got to look for his fist glowing gold after he teleports back a little bit. The other move, which is the one everyone hates in this fight, and why nobody can pure platinum it, without a whole lot of practice anyway, is the black hole. You remember those the move Jubileus had at the end of Bayonetta 1? Where she would punch the ground? Yeah, she would punch the ground and vacuum you towards the fist, and if you fell in it, you died.
I never fell into it, so I can't honestly remember.
Well, Rodin has that, except he doesn't need to punch the ground. He just throws a black hole on the ground and can keep comboing you.
I see.
So you're getting ripped towards this thing where if you touch it, you take over half your HP and damage. And it's totally screwing with your positioning and movement because it's sucking you in. So the solution to all 3 of these is the same. You put the train weapon on your secondary weapon, and you jump and press and hold the jump button to activate the Choo Choo Train special effect, where you turn into a choo-choo train and go drive away from the boss. As fast as you can. And you do this over and over while spamming dodge in between dashes and hoping those attacks end, because they're too scary and I cannot find a consistent way to reliably dodge them. But I got there in the end. There's another thing I do in that video where I pull the frog out and have it sing 3 times and then put it away and pull it out at the very start of phase 2. Because he just kind of stands around for a second after phase 2, and if you get witch time off of his transformation, because it technically does damage, you can whip the frog out and have her finish your song and delete a whole HP bar from his second phase.
That's useful.
Yeah, the otherwise completely useless move that I found no use for anywhere else in the game finally found a use.
What is it supposed to do? Like, because you didn't really explain what it does in normal conditions.
We're just talking about singing frogs.
You have to make the frogs go through 4 verses of her song. Each one has a long, we'll call it a cast time, but she has to sing the whole verse in her terrible froggy voice. And you have to, every time you tap the button, you tell her to sing. And you have to be channeling Demon Slave while you do this, so you can't do anything else either. And this takes probably about 12 seconds total to get the whole song sung. 12 to 15 seconds. It is completely unrealistic to ever whip this thing out in a real fight, because you don't have 12 to 15 seconds to get this to work. However, Rodin counts as a single fight. So what you can do is at the very start, when he's emoting, you can throw the frog out, get her singing to prep her first 3 verses, and before you push the button for the 4th and final verse, you keep her in your pocket until phase 2 starts. You activate witch time off the transformation, pull the frog out, and have her sing her last verse, and just hope he doesn't break that witch time. And you can delete a whole HP bar for free. So,
how many people have managed to do this? Do you have any idea how many people have cleared it?
They don't have leaderboards for this one, so I don't see it. I would imagine it's more than a pure platinum the entirety of Unlimited Climax, but it can't be more than 100. At least at the time I cleared it. Just because there's no strategy online for it, everybody's just like, get lucky, is what I was reading. Which is another... Yeah. That was another reason I wanted to do this early, because if I do this before the guides are out that tell you how to do all this on Pure Platinum, then I can really say I know what I'm talking about, because I had to experiment to find the answers myself. And I'll dump this in live show chat too. I gloated on Reddit, probably against my better
It's
judgment.
about the most shameful activity a person can engage in.
It is, isn't it?
So
I hope you went and sat on the toilet and thought about your place in the universe for a while after doing that.
I was very tired after I did this and just wanted to post it somewhere. So I was curious as to what people would say about it, and by very heavily directing the conversation myself, I managed to keep it civil and sane throughout.
Yeah, not something you can really say about most Reddit conversations.
So if you want to know in detail how I did everything, I detailed it there. And the people asking for the most upvoted comment is, please give me every bit of advice you have for Viola. I need any help I can get. I don't know what to do.
Wrestle the cat.
And my answer was basic stuff. Cheshire hates you and everyone you love. And explaining why he's terrible. And you just got to get lucky.
That cat just will not cooperate.
No, Viola's not much better, but Cheshire really doesn't like to cooperate. So I went and rubbed that in the Bayonetta Reddit's face, and it was a positive thread going. But that game's done and dusted, and I booted up Bayonetta 1 to compare, and it's night and day. I'd rather play Bayonetta 1.
Yeah, the story's about as coherent.
Well, the story's actually, normal in Bayonetta 1. It's cheesy and it's dumb and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but
it takes about
it's
3
a normal
battles
story.
to make sense.
It's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible. It's a good story once you get your head around it.
Bayonetta 3 has an objectively terrible story. Like, the worst action game story I've ever seen.
That ain't good.
No, it's not. It is just awful. You go on a multiverse world tour just to see the other Bayonettas die and throw you their weapon.
Oh, that's grim.
And go fight a guy that shows up in the last chapter. To learn his real motives, you got to read the notes about. And it's just a mess of a story. And I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it because I don't care. Bayonetta as a franchise is dead story-wise after this. They kill off Bayonetta. They try to imply that Bayonetta is dead for good deeds and all of the Bayonettas are dead after this, and they're going to pass the torch on to Viola.
But nobody would play a game about Viola.
Nobody play about that.
Yeah, and they're going to pass the torch off to Viola as the new Bayonetta because she has inherited the family name in air quotes because Rodan's the one that gave her the name originally. But
so she's being called Bayonetta at the end of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And here's the thing. Even the simps on Reddit hate this decision.
Yeah, everyone likes Bayonetta. As in Cereza Bayonetta.
Well, now we have to distinguish Cereza as the Bayonetta character you play in Bayonetta 3, who is also the little girl you run around with in Bayonetta 1. And Bayonetta 1 and 2 Bayonetta, who are Bayonetta 1 Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 Bayonetta, being Bayonetta 1 Bayonetta with a very, very slightly different story.
Yeah.
Because multiverse. Why did they think this was a good idea?
Multiverse is never a good idea.
Yeah.
Unless you start out with it right from the get-go. Even then.
I've seen a few. I went digging around to see people's opinion on Viola because I was genuinely curious about this. And so I went everywhere on the internet, all the dirtiest types of nastiness, like including the GameFAQs forums.
Ew.
And the general, I saw some people who were more, we'll call them open-minded, but I think brainwashed is a better word for it, trying to give credit to Viola instead of she's just a terrible character. They're like, oh, well, she's like Nero, and they pass the torch at the end like they do in Devil May Cry 5. I'm like, Dante's still here.
Dante's still
He goes to the underworld like every other day.
It's kind of what he does.
Like, at the end of, 3 games, he's gone to the underworld.
Yeah, he just drinks Monster Zero Energy Ultra now.
Yeah.
Just while he's there this time, he's left the human world in charge, in Nero's care. But there's nothing saying he can't come back like he always does.
The torch hasn't really been passed.
Yeah. It is acknowledging Nero has come into his own. It's not a passing of the torch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the story plays it like it is, but we all know that's not the case.
Dante will be back.
Because we all know which of these characters actually makes the money.
Yeah. You're not going to make a Devil May Cry and sell it with just Nero.
What is it lately, actually, with all media? Everything seems to be about passing the torch.
Well, it's because I think it's because there's a lot of insecurity in the creative media establishment over their inability to create. And so they've just undertaken this process of constantly making sequels and rebooting things, but people are becoming very conscious of the fact that nothing is new. So in order to continue to make nothing new, but to take credit for something being original, the natural approach is to create your new OC and then have the pre-established characters give it validity by passing the torch.
By taking the absolute smallest, lowest effort approach they can to making something new.
Yes, basically. They, rather than having it establish credibility of its own, passing the torch is a way to steal credibility from another character.
Yeah. And usually kill off the other character in the process.
Yeah, well...
It will then get brought back later when the people who actually bankroll the enterprise decide that they actually care about money.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've had Bayonetta die, invalidating most of the entire second game. They killed John off in the most inglorious fashion possible, with her stabbed in the back by a guy in a wheelchair.
What?
And, yeah. You watch me fight Rodan with John and tell me that's how she died. Her outfit is terrible, though. She had it coming. Holy crap, this universe's John has the worst fashion sense.
Mind you, so does this universe's Bayonetta, so...
I can live with this universe's Bayonetta. It's weird, but I'm okay with frilly dresses and ribbons. And the Ojo hair, that's all okay. But John and Viola are... I can't do that. It's just too disgusting.
Just no.
Yeah, just no. So yeah, Bayonetta 3 is officially on the shelf. I'm going back and zipping through Bayonetta 1 on the show. I'm already on Mission 10, skipping all the cutscenes. I can go through this game really fast. I played it a lot back in the day. So yeah, it's infinitely better. I played a very little bit of Bayonetta 2, and I misremembered something, or they patched it, with Umbran Climax not lasting as long as I thought, but it may just be my brain was working in wonky speed, as happens when I get really into one of these games on the hardest difficulty, where my sense of time gets completely distorted. Because you have to be... This is a phenomenon I experience every time I get really into one of these games. When I finished the Rodan fight, it felt like everything was moving in slow motion everywhere. Because you have to pay attention to such minute changes in frame and wait for very slight frames. Like, you only got 2 frames to react to something. You know, about 6 if you extend it with the offset. You know, your brain just has to speed up or you're not going to do it. So it could have just been my sense of time being out of whack, because I did it pretty quick after that, just to have a compare and contrast, and did like the first mission in Bayonetta 2 again. And that game feels way better. Everything in Bayonetta 2 feels great. Bayonetta 2 currently is still the most definitive Bayonetta to play if you just want the best of all worlds. It has the best story of all the games. It has the best gameplay of all the games. Umbran Climax is busted, but it's not as busted as I remember it being. Going back and poking at it, you do drain your magic really fast, even on normal mode. And it has save files, which Bayonetta 3 does not have. What is with games now, not including save files?
Oh, that beats me, honestly.
Like in Bayonetta 3, if I wanted to do what I just did with Bayonetta 2, where, you know, I wanted to start the game over to get an idea of how the game feels and plays from scratch again, I just, you know, click on an empty save file. You get 3 of them.
Yeah, and you can delete one if you want to.
Yeah, and you can copy them too. How about that?
Yeah.
Technology. And I can just start the game over. And I can still have my old progress right there on the file select menu. But no, In Bayonetta 3, it's like you gotta like make a whole new profile on your Switch or something to make another account or make another save file.
Yeah. You can actually go into... You have to dig in the Switch's options menu really deep and find it to delete the save file. Pokemon's the same, actually. Yeah. They've gone the same way.
Yeah, but like sometimes I just in action games especially, I just want a new save file when I replay these games.
Yeah. Why make
Devil May Cry 5 did this. Devil May Cry 4 and Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, not the original, but Special Edition, and 5 did the exact same thing, where I replay these games a lot, and sometimes I just want to restart from scratch and experience the game again after it's been a while. And the newer versions don't have save files.
Stop it.
Now on PC, thankfully, with the PC versions, which is what I play on, I can cheat. So I can just go figure out Google where does this game save its save files, copy, paste, okay, boot game up again.
Yeah,
delete old one.
You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, come on, video game people. I know that couch gaming is not a thing, but save files were not just for people that needed to have their little brother have a save file. They were also for normal people that just wanted to one day come back to the game after, about a year.
Yeah. Or for games with multiple story paths or just multiple ways of doing things, you can start up a new one and come at it a different way.
So, that's a thing that's annoying me. But yeah, I'm done with Bayonetta 3. I don't think I'll ever be returning to that game. I've said my piece on it. I made my giant Reddit post about it. I posted my Rodan kill video. I'm done. I'm not touching it. It gets having had time to think about it. While the Rodan fight was a lot of fun, it is not worth the price of the rest of the game, because you have to suffer through all of it to get good enough to do the Rodan fight, and it's not worth it. I genuinely recommend you stick with Bayonetta 1 or 2 and wait for the next character action game.
Yeah, I was considering getting it, but honestly, it just sounds like it's better off missed.
Just if you are in character action games for character action games' sake, don't waste your time. If you don't care about the quality or what's going on in the story and you just want to see big stuff, punch stuff, maybe it can serve that purpose for you. But even then, wait for a sale.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Devil May Cry 5's there.
Yeah, like that's the looming specter over the character action genre now is, yeah, that's all great, but we have Devil May Cry 5. I mean, the only problem with that is I'm now fully S-ranked that game 3 times.
Yeah, you can't do much more with it.
I mean, fully S-ranked on every single difficulty with every single character.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you can do that before you just have the game memorized.
Do the blindfold challenge now. Just no eyes. Away you go. Do it blind.
Yeah, I could probably do some of the missions in that game blind.
You probably could at this point.
You give me a week to repractice, probably probably not the Virgil fight, but probably I could do mission 13 blindfolded. I could do that pretty easy blindfolded, actually.
Well, you got your sound cues, I suppose.
I might be able to S-rank it blindfolded. That mission's so easy. So yeah, that's the character action update. The only other thing of note that happened is I got caught up on the Pinecone story today. That was I just woke up this morning, sat in my chair, and just read and got to the end of it.
Gotta know what your waifus are doing.
Yep. So story's pretty okay so far. It will depend on how this climax goes. We will see. The world's going to end again if we don't kill the boss, presumably. So, might be game over for the NA server.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It all comes down to Crunchyroll. Are they just going to screw up the event? Yes. Yep. How are they going to screw up the event is the question.
Cygames, please never use Crunchyroll again.
They can't even get their own app right. Come on.
Oh me, oh my. Speaking of which, my Honest Bob's has been down the past several days, which has been very annoying.
And might be time to find a new Bob.
Yeah, I think Bob got blocked by my ISP.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. It's just the nature of the beast.
So, well, they have like 30 channels, and one of them still works, but it's not updated to the current feature set that the main Honest Bob's has.
Ah.
So yeah, that is that's all she wrote for my week. I don't think I got anything else. Do we have an email? Did anybody check?
We did not check, actually, because I didn't have a whole lot of time. Yeah, fun happened this morning. And I can't check now because...
No, we did not have
Yeah, I didn't think we did. Oh, I did. So, newslets. There's a bunch of little things, but unfortunately, yeah, everyone disappeared to play Dreadtide. Or Pokemon, and got utterly disappointed. But there's a few little nuggets of information out there.
Yeah. Any of the stuff posted catch you guys' eye?
Not directly. Though,
I mean,
we should probably quickly also point out that the Nepotism Awards have their nominations up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make notes on those.
Did you see the thing I linked? I think I linked it. I don't know where I linked it. Earlier in the week
did.
About the fighting game category.
Yeah, not multiverses. Sifu being in there.
Yeah, it's like in what way is that a fighting game?
It's a side-scrolling brawler. It's not even a side-scrolling brawler. It's a 3D brawler.
They absolutely needed to have 5, so that they just grabbed.
I don't think there were 5 fighting games launched this year. Well, actually,
yeah,
they've taken the Cartoon Network workout one because that was awful. But not the Cartoon Network one. The Nickelodeon one. Because yeah, it was bad. So yeah. What I found even more jarring is that Diablo Immortal actually did make an appearance. It's in there as one of the best. Was it Mobile Game of the Year?
Really?
Yeah, it's in there.
What is it competing against?
Tower of God. Hang on, let me pop it up actually, and let's have a quick, very, very quick skim through it. Because honestly, this year I'm kind of expecting Elden Ring to make a clean sweep. I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't, because for once a game comes along that actually kind of deserves it.
You mean it's an actual video game?
Well, yes, but because it's also a niche game. Even though it's a very popular one at the moment.
The journalists were bad at it.
The journalists were bad at it. So that's going to be marked against. It's like, here we go. Game of the Year is already... it's Plague Tale, Elden Ring, God of Boy, Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade 3. Honestly, it's going to come down to Elden Ring or God of Boy. They've got the usual faffery. They've got all the esports stuff in there, which no one gives a toss about. Best Direction is basically the same thing as Game of the Year again. I'm just quickly flicking through here to find anything that's particularly jarring. Scorn being in Best Art Direction is odd. Because isn't that game very, very disgusting?
Oh, that's its whole point. It's H.R. Geiger inspired.
Yeah. So everything's covered in genitalia.
Well, it's just meat tech.
Meat tech. So yeah,
I don't think that meat punk as a genre will take off.
They keep trying it every now and again, though. Yeah, best score and music. Best music's probably one that Elden Ring's going to fall down on, I think.
Well, that depends on what it's competing against.
Plague Tale Requiem, God of Boy, Metal Hellsinger, and Xenoblade 3. Xenoblade 3, in all things, is as anime as it could possibly hope to be, including the soundtrack. Quickly flicking through. Whoop, too far. Yeah, best audio design is, of all things, played Gran Turismo in there. And why is Call of Duty appearing?
Oh, a duty, man.
Call of Duty. Best performance, nobody gives a toss. Games for Impact, nobody gives a toss.
LOL games went back.
Best ongoing, Final Fantasy's on there, as well as hold on a moment. Oh no, it was community support. Never mind. Yeah, best ongoing is probably one that's going to get a bit of attention, but I hope it's Final Fantasy that wins it this year. They've been snubbed the last couple.
Oh, they got it in 2020.
I think it was 2020. Yeah.
People were so mad about that.
Yeah.
Like, people's jimmies really seem to get furiously rustled every time Final Fantasy XIV gets any kind of accolades.
Yeah.
Not really sure why.
So, best mobile game is Apex Legends Mobile, Diablo Immortal, Genshin Impact, Marvel Snap, and Tower of Fantasy. At least they don't have Switch games in there this year. But all of these games are horrendously predatory. Although none of them are quite so, what's the way to put this? Franchise shitting, I guess, as Diablo Immortal. Just why? Why Diablo Immortal?
I can tell you why. The answer's money.
Is it though?
Yeah, it made like 10 million in its opening week or something.
Oh yeah, I suppose when you think of it that way, there were the whales.
Yeah, there will always the Blizzard simps cannot be stopped with their wallets.
Yeah,
you are only going to get them by percentage losses in their corporate share price from lack of engagement. You're not going to get them with things like, oh, well, you shouldn't do this because we won't give you money, because there's always somebody that's going to give them at least a little bit of money.
Stop giving Blizzard money. Yeah.
We've been telling them that for years and they don't listen to us.
Oh, people are starting to listen now. All right.
Well, I mean, Blizzard Activision did have their earning call, and they did suffer a massive hit to their takings this quarter. However, this quarter does not include Dragonflight or Modern Warfare 2 again.
Yeah. Like
I'm still incredulous that that's a thing.
Yeah, remember when people actually liked Call of Duty Modern Warfare? Here it is again. The same game with a fresh coat of... No, not even a fresh coat of paint.
Well, it is a fresh coat of paint because this one is the remake under a new engine because they've already re-released it and remastered it.
Oh yes, so now they're going to remake it.
Yeah, they've already done the remaster phase, so now they've got to step it up a notch and just remake it, which is what they've done with this newest one, which I'm sure is going to make a huge amount of money.
Yeah. Best action games kind of all over the place. Bayonetta 3, Modern Warfare 2 again, Neon White, Sifu.
What does action even mean, really?
It's almost as vague as action adventure.
So Sifu gets to be a fighting game and an action game? That doesn't seem very fair.
Yeah, it's in both categories. It's not in action adventure at least. So, it's just the usual twaddle in here, honestly, by the look of it.
Yeah, I'm saving my comments for when we actually do the show on
we'll really get into it and shred it properly come the actual show we do it on. But you know what? We got best role playing here: Elden Ring, Live Alive, Pokemon Legends, Triangle Strategy, Xenoblade 3. Elden Ring's going to win that one, but I would actually love to see Legends Arceus get it, just to really rub some salt into Game Freak.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel weird about having Elden Ring win a role-playing game because nobody's playing it for the role-playing.
No, they're really not.
Yeah, they're playing it as an action game. They're not playing it as a role-playing game.
Yeah. But yeah, best fighting is, of course, Shifu again. Mind you, it's against, like, a JoJo game, King of Fighters, and a Smash Brothers knockoff.
I really think it's just a slot filler.
I think it might be a slot filler at this point.
I think they genuinely couldn't find a fifth game that any of their panelists had played, so they just picked another game that had punching in it and called it a fighting game.
Yeah, but every year there's one game like that just does not fit its whatever category they stick it in. But let's face it, nobody actually watches this thing for the awards anyway, except to mock them like we do. It's to just basically be trough-fed marketing spiel.
Do we mock them or do we get upset at them?
A bit of both.
Because I feel more like I want to cry when I watch them than laugh at them.
Because Sonic Fox.
Because Sonic Fox.
Never forget.
Never forget. Thankfully, I'm just glad they learned. Well, they learned something anyway. Actually, come to think of it, we got all the esports stuff here. Let me see. Best family game of all freaking things. They got Splatoon 3 in there, and Kirby. Kirby barely had multiplayer. Aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the Nintendo game category plus anything else they think is fluffy enough.
Yeah. Skip it. Content creator of the year. I don't know who. Well, actually, I kind of know who Ludwig is, but that's about it. I don't know who the rest of those people are. Best debut indie. Blah blah blah. So, Vampire Survivors is actually on best debut indie. Best adaptation, I think, is actually a new category they put in this year, and it's adapting video games to other fields, other medium.
Oh boy.
So you've got Arcane, you've got Cyberpunk Edgerunners, The Cuphead Show, Sonic 2 the movie, and Uncharted the movie. This is honestly just a pure marketing one.
He's trying to get in with Hollywood.
I think he's trying to get in with Hollywood. I mean, all five of these...
Well, we'll be able to tell based on who wins it, right? Like, Arcane is at least somewhat popular, but like Arcane is probably the highest quality show there, and they aren't Hollywood at all. And
nope.
Edgerunners is also super popular, but they also aren't Hollywood. So
well, you got three. Arcane, Cyberpunk, and Cuphead are all Netflix.
You know, the thing is that Cuphead is acceptably mainstream because it doesn't have an Asian aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
The others are too anime-esque.
Yes. Sonic actually ended up being fairly good by all reports. I still got to sit down and watch them. I just haven't gotten around to it. And Uncharted, I enjoyed Uncharted actually, because it was pulpy popcorn nonsense. It's exactly what I wanted at the time.
The game was practically a movie.
Well, yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference, honestly. And yeah, sometimes all you want is something pulpy and popcorny. And Uncharted scratched that itch perfectly. It also had one of probably the most ridiculous climax scenes I've ever seen in a movie like this.
Like, if you could pick one of the mainstream franchises to be made into a movie, the easiest, I think Uncharted's probably one of your safer bets.
Uncharted's probably top of that pile, yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's this nonsense. Oh, grief, the most anticipated field exists, doesn't it?
Well, is that judged on how many feels you feel about it?
I mean, I think it's just based on general hype. At least for the medium, I think as far as the award itself goes, it's which do we want to shill, or which friend do we want to shill the most? In this case, it's Final Fantasy 16 Hogwarts Legacy, which didn't that come out like years ago? Resi 4 remake, Starfield, and Legend of Zelda: Tears of a Kingdom, which is Breath of the Wild 2. Which means, aside from Hogwarts, people want these games. People are very generally hyped about Final Fantasy 16 and Resi 4. Very trepidatious, I guess, about Starfield.
Well, there's some people who just have faith that Todd isn't lying this time.
I don't know where they get this faith. Yeah, Todd's track record is against him. And honestly, from the footage from Starfield that we've seen so far, I'm not sold. I generally like the Bethesda open
tell
world
us
games.
lies.
I'm not buying his lies, no.
Todd is as honest as the day is long.
Well, that's 76.
I am cognizant of the fact that in the United States they are rapidly approaching the shortest day of the year. But
yeah. So anyway, that's all that nonsense. We'll go into more depth of that later in the year after they've actually awarded everything, and then we can get nice and salty about things. Especially if Elden Ring gets snubbed.
or rather more resigned about the state of the world.
It's hard to get enthused, honestly, to get properly salty anymore.
Yeah, I just can't be angry at it as much as I used to be. Like,
It would be easier to be angry if we believed that they were taking it seriously at all.
I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed.
Like, it's more, I'm not angry, I just knew it was going to be this way.
Yeah. You could be better, but you didn't.
They don't have any motivation to be better. There's no money in it.
There's no money in it. Alrighty. What other little nuggets of news do we have?
Well, I think the big story this week was Blizzard pulling out of China wholesale. So basically, their contract with previously, as we know, in the distant past, because China is a difficult market to work in generally. Usually, you will sell the rights to run your properties and sell your properties somewhere else. You won't try and do it yourself because gaining entry to that market requires you to get the approval of the CCP, and it's not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, the Nine Interactive ran World of Warcraft, and since then, it was when that contract expires, it was moved over to Despite them being the main player in this, I've suddenly forgotten the name of the company.
Tencent?
I don't know, not Tencent, the other one.
The other one. Oh.
There are two big ones.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the other one's called.
And I can't, suddenly I can't scrape up the name of it. And I don't know why.
Hang on, I've got to bring the article up and then I'll tell you. Anyway.
At any rate, it's I can't talk about it unless I know the name of the thing.
Do they not have the contract in here?
The story is about
NetEase.
them. They can't not have it.
That's it.
NetEase, yeah. Okay, there are the two big ones are NetEase and Tencent, and it wasn't Tencent.
Yeah.
I could remember that it wasn't Tencent. I couldn't remember the other one. Right, so NetEase has held the contract for the time being, and the contract was up for renewal, and nobody really expected that, in a direct sense, that there would be any problems, but there were problems. There have been problems in the past where NetEase had proposed various things to Blizzard, and in fact had started a team working on another World of Warcraft MMO. Which was going to be set in a different period of Azerothian history, and so on. And that project got killed outright by Blizzard, and nobody really knows why. It's suggested that there were things going on in the background that the broader public was not privy to, couldn't see, didn't know what was going on. In this case, the NetEase's contract with Blizzard to run World of Warcraft came up for renewal, and it seemed like they were having a lot of trouble hashing out an equitable deal. It's very hard to tell what was actually the point of contention, since both sides have been pretty vague about it. But from the way NetEase phrased it, it sounds like Blizzard sort of unilaterally just pulled out of discussions and decided that NetEase are no longer going to be able to run World of Warcraft, and that as far as NetEase is concerned, all the user data will be sealed and the servers will go down. What was the date? I think it's in January, late January next year.
Yeah, this article
There will
doesn't
no
have
longer be.
the date on it.
There'll no longer be World of Warcraft servers run by NetEase in China. Now, in China, World of Warcraft is very popular. World of Warcraft proper is not remarkably popular, but World of Warcraft Classic is insanely popular.
Because it's better. Yeah, let's not go down
They are just pulling the plug of an enormous market. And the thing is that from what I've heard, from the media that I looked at, because this is not something that I went out of my way to research, this was something that I researched by way of making YouTube tell me things while I was working during the week. From what I heard, it seems like the share prices have reflected a catastrophic outcome for NetEase, since they're losing a huge cash cow, but they haven't represented a similar loss for Blizzard. So, as far as the share markets are concerned, Blizzard must have a plan. Maybe it is that they had already lined up a replacement. Maybe they've already figured out how they're going to continue running World of Warcraft. But the share markets are factoring in the boom from Dragonflight sales in China as though they are still operating World of Warcraft in China. So nobody's really sure what exactly is going on. NetEase's statement suggests that Blizzard unilaterally pulled out of negotiations and said the gig is up. And that they also said something along the lines of that it was the fault, that they can't talk about what was actually going on, but at bottom it was all the fault of one person being a jerk. At the wrong place at the wrong time.
Not someone making an anti-CCP tweet again.
They didn't say that, but they wouldn't be allowed to say it if it was. So, that, like I said, nobody knows exactly what went on, but what they did say is that, well, in as much as I could glean from machine-translated material, that there was, in fact, one individual that was at the fulcrum of all of this and caused everything to fall apart. So yeah, which is sort of interesting in a bizarre kind of way, but so yeah, they are going to continue operating. They're going to release Dragonflight. They said that they do intend to release it and have it on the live servers, for all of a month or whatever, until the servers go down.
So they're going to take everyone's money and run away.
Well, it could be that that's what they're doing, but that seems like an expensive thing to do.
Yes.
That would be more in their interest to pull out of. So unless they already had in their contract that they have to operate in this way, it would make more sense to pull out, unless they have information suggesting that this is going to be passed off to somebody in due time. And that the servers will continue operating, or at least the data will be passed to somebody who will then fire up new servers. Or something. Like I said, nobody knows anything about it. But this is a massive amount of money. This is a huge market that Blizzard, as far as anybody can see at this stage, is just forfeiting.
Yeah, it's too big a project and too much money just to walk away from. So they've got to have some sort of plan B.
And that's why everybody is talking about it, is because it's so bizarre. Like, why? Why is this happening? Why does nobody seem to know anything about it? How can they just pull out all of a sudden without really any fanfare whatsoever? What is behind all of this? It's a very strange maneuver, but yeah, that is the way it is right now. It's pretty clear that there has been a certain amount of contention and bad blood between NetEase and Blizzard in the past, but it didn't seem like anything of this sort of level to make Blizzard sacrifice an entire market, if not one of their biggest markets. I mean, their earnings call happened over the past week or two. I don't know exactly when it was, for the past quarter, and well, let's just say that they made roughly 3 times as much money on the mobile market as they did on the PC market. I don't remember the figures offhand, but you're looking at about 300 million in revenues from the PC market, about 300 million in revenues from the console market. I'm talking Blizzard Activision here, not Blizzard exclusively, and 900 million revenues this quarter from the mobile market. And as we all know, the mobile market is in China dwarfs the rest of the world.
Oh yeah. There's got to be something about this, but no doubt the full story is going to come out eventually. So
Yeah, so it seems very strange to upend the apple cart.
It does.
As far as Blizzard is concerned. I mean, the only thing that is going to continue to operate, as far as I am aware, is Diablo Immortal. That's going to be your legacy. Okay, just whatever. I see where your priorities are, but yeah. So yeah, it was a big story, but nobody really knows what to think about it. So the chatter has mostly been limited to people shrugging.
Yeah,
because you can't really do anything but wait to see what happens next.
There's so many just massive holes in the flow of information here. It's just, you don't know what to think.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so that's that. Anything else?
We had a couple follow-ups, I think, from last week. So we were making fun of Disco Elysium last week.
Oh yeah, we were.
Oh, we were poking at it anyway.
We poked at it.
Apparently, their most recent fires were fired for misconduct and harassment.
Of course they were.
Now, they also listed an interesting claim here that I thought was funny for communists. Attempting to illegally sell other game companies the company's intellectual property with the aim of undermining the rest of the team.
Oh, no.
So your little commies got a little taste of capitalism and decided they wanted some personal capitalism.
I don't think that is what it's about, actually. Like, I don't think it is actually them being hypocritical and trying to do the capitalist thing. I think, judging by the way this team has acted, I think that it was more about spite than anything else. Because that's just how this team has operated based on what I've observed. They are constantly engaged in hateful backbiting of each other.
The fact that
that seems to be the way. That seems to be the way that a lot of these like super progressive games companies have operated, is that they go down due to strife. They don't go down due to commercial reasons. When they do go down to commercial reasons, it's because they put everything else ahead of it. It's sort of, you can see it in the way that they put making a quality product that will sell well far behind making something that suits their ideology. Sometimes they can make a game that is lauded as being very good, which is shot through with their ideology, the way that they did with Disco Elysium, but the character of the people involved is often very questionable. Like, it would not surprise me if this had nothing to do with making money in the first instance, so much as money was a bonus for screwing over the team, which was the primary goal. That's what I would expect from this team, which, from all accounts, basically hate each other.
Yeah.
I see.
That would be what I would say the case is. It's spite first, always spite first. Spite in the first place, spite in the second place, spite in the third place, and spite also in the last place.
That's a lot of spite.
They're spiteful people. This is how they operate. But I mean, the way you have to work with literature these days is, the author is dead. Reinterpret it however you want. So, realistically, none of this is anybody's business that we should care about. They'll probably never make another game worth a damn. They're probably a one-hit wonder, most likely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just one of those cases where it's like how you never try and ever look up anything about the personal life of a musician that you like, because you just don't want to know. You'd rather just enjoy their music without the baggage.
You're better off not knowing.
Yeah, it's like that. Let's just not worry about their inside baseball, because they're probably worthless anyway at this point. They've produced the one decent piece of art that they ever will, and it's all over now.
You've peaked.
The team just seems like they're imploding as it is. Maybe one or two of the people will go on to develop their talents in a context where they can actually be put to use, but as a team, the Disco Elysium team is collapsing in real time.
Though with the way the industry tends to gossip among themselves, I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets wind of all the infighting and just wants nothing to do with them.
Well, I'm not saying that their team will. I'm saying that individuals might be able to clean up they might be able to clean up their image if they can get out early enough.
Yeah, they got some work ahead of them if they want to do that.
Because I mean, a lot of them people in the industry won't see this as a big deal, provided that what they get attached to their name is not being a sex pest.
Yeah,
because Blizzard has made that a hot issue. But I mean, they're all communists, so they're all sex pests. It's just a matter of whether they get caught or not.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, I just threw it in there because we were mentioning Disco Elysium last week. I don't know much about the team. I just
yeah,
threw it in there because we had mentioned them last week.
Every time they've made media headlines, it's not necessarily because of the game, although that has happened occasionally. It's usually because there's some sort of internal drama that's leaked out all over the place.
Well, back when they were in the release window for their game, there was a lot of chatter about them because the game was held to be just incredible. I haven't played it myself. I don't know how good it is, but the way the writings and the sort of conversation trees and that was structured, people found it very entertaining. They liked it very much, and if that was all that there ever was to it, then that would be fine. But unfortunately, it was just been sort of like debacle after debacle out of that team this year.
All right. So
weren't they the team that got up the Game Awards and thanked Karl Marx?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was them.
The Chapo Trap House people, like it's basically the BreadTube, the development company.
Oh, Keffels' people.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Anywho, I think that's about it.
The Doom Eternal.
The Doom Eternal drama.
It really goes without saying. There's not really much to add here other than Bethesda are claiming he's a big fat meanie pants liar.
Yeah, but of course they claim that.
Yeah, so Bethesda says Mick Gordon is lying. Mick Gordon says Bethesda is lying.
One of these two things employs Todd Howard.
Yes.
That's true. That's true. Todd Howard does work for one of them. It doesn't work for the other one. It's very hard to tell when you've just got a situation like this who is in the right, who is in the wrong, or if it lies somewhere between the two. But
especially after the whole shebang with the voice actor of Bayonetta lately.
Yeah, but well, the thing is that voice actor for Bayonetta took it for granted that people would just trust her because there is a record of people taking advantage of voice actors in the industry. While the music people are part of the sound team as well, that's not as well established that they're taken advantage of in the industry. However, on top of that, you've got the fact that Mick Gordon presented an awful lot of receipts and that he could have spun this narrative much, much, much earlier, and he had been reluctant to do so until now. It's not like with the Bayonetta voice actress who got out ahead of the story to cause trouble.
Yes.
So yeah, the behaviour suggests that even if Mick Gordon is not 100% the victim, even if there is two sides to the story probably leans more to Mick Gordon's side of the account than Bethesda would like people to believe.
Yep. I think this one might end up going to the lawyers.
I don't know if Mick Gordon wants to. I think that he just wants it all to go away. So
yeah,
if Bethesda can be made through legal back channels to back off and just shut up and let Mick Gordon get on with his career, he'll probably just let sleeping dogs lie. But he may have to continue to fight if Bethesda want to be bloody minded about it.
Yeah. We shall see. We shall see.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Seems like every week at the moment there's some sort of drama.
Well, I mean, that's the point of our show.
Yeah. And people don't have anything to do while they wait for the end of the year, I guess.
Yeah. Alrighty, in that case, shall we wrap up?
Yeah. I don't think we've got anything else. I think we're about done.
I think we'll get to mid-December and there'll be a rash of stories about development studios shutting down because they can't pay their heating bill.
Yeah.
I think, especially in EU where it's already hit and is only going to get compounded. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of people in these cushy type jobs cutting costs by cutting employees.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
maybe like Elon does, where they've got a whole bunch of bloat staff that been supporting, who have been working from home, and who have been eating $400 lunches, and
yeah,
so on and so forth. How do you even eat $400 worth of lunch?
That's a lot of lunch.
Like how many Lunchables could you get for that, Aristotle?
In California, probably about 20.
Yeah, point.
How many could I get for that much? Let's see.
You go to Alibaba.
I could get around. I'd get more than 200 for that if I was getting them on sale.
A lot of crackers.
$200 each. Not $200, $2 each. Yeah, the Elon Twitter takeover is just the gift that keeps on giving, and I don't care either way if either Elon manages to fix it up and build something out of Twitter, or the whole thing just falls on his face. It's just being entertaining.
I've been feeling irrationally angry about the whole thing. It's definitely irrational. Like, there's no percentage in me getting annoyed about it, but I've just been very, very frustrated with the Twitter populace as a whole, constantly throwing in my face that they're a bunch of NPCs who never have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all week, the entirety of the Twitterverse was talking about Twitter's imminent death. Like, based on what? Based on what?
Based on what?
You're saying this because you were told to say it. And they all think that is some insight that they've had, but they were all told to say this. They were all told to believe it.
Especially when you're getting emails coming out of marketing companies saying, if you want to capitalize on the Twitter takeover, here is how you do it. And it's all like, create rage.
Yeah, like, this is all like, this is the other thing is, like, this is all reheated rage from the last, half dozen literally Hitlers. Like, the big one, of course, that everybody remembers is President Donald Trump, and the way people behaved towards him and the way people talked about him. Like, if you look at that, you can superimpose that exactly on top of Elon Musk and the way they talk about Elon Musk now. They've just made Elon the new literally Hitler.
Yeah.
For the current moment. And they're recycling all the same old name calling and the same old allegations, and like, as ridiculous as it was to constantly be accusing a ridiculously wealthy real estate magnate and businessman and entertainment industry icon who made himself the president of the wealthiest, most powerful country on earth, calling him stupid, incompetent idiot. Like, in spite of all of that, it's the same thing with all these people talking about how Elon's this moron who's just going to run Twitter into the ground because he has no idea how to run a tech company. He's Elon freaking Musk. If there's anyone on the planet who's eminently qualified to run a tech enterprise, it's Elon Musk. Are you seriously expecting me to nod along when you say he's this sort of dumbass hillbilly who doesn't know how to run a tech company because he doesn't understand computers? Because that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But they're saying it because the only lexicon that they have to talk about people I don't like is to say they're fascist and to use everything they call Donald Trump. It's really, really frustrating watching, the absolute dregs of humanity embarrass me by proxy for having to share a species with them constantly, all day, every day. Like, how do you even have the energy to be tweeting like this? Isn't Twitter dead? Why are you spending all your time on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people ain't like that.
None of them have had a single thought of their own in their entire lives. They've just
Correct.
borrowed all of their talking points from somebody else.
Usually somebody on the lie box.
Alright, let's get out of here, shall we?
Alright.
I don't want to be mad about Twitter no more.
Yep. Me and Vol were talking about doing a new MPP this weekend. We'll see. We might record it tomorrow. And
I kind of want to do it this weekend if at all possible. Because most of the news is going to go stale if we leave it much longer.
Yeah, so we were thinking about recording that tomorrow, and we'll let you know updates on that. So
I really don't think us guys are really cut out for the 24-hour news cycle. I don't think we've got it in us.
No.
To be fair, that's a good way to just kill yourself, honestly. It's just...
Like, I don't know about you, but when it comes to topics like what we're going to be talking about, I need to stop and process it for a little bit.
I have less processing to do because for me it's a foregone conclusion that democracy is dead. So, like, when you're a monarchist, you really don't have to worry about the credibility of an electoral system because you don't believe in them.
So, yeah, that's treading dangerous water. All right, folks, I think we're done for this week. Look for an MPP this week. We'll try to get it out, and hopefully we have an episode for you tomorrow. Might come a little bit later in the week, depending on how long it takes me to upload. And we will see. It will probably be Rumble exclusive because of what we have to talk about. And yeah, we'll see you next week for the normal show. Sayonara. Bye-bye.